So, all right, everybody, thank you so very much for joining us today. I am here with the beautiful Lynne Hansen, cover artist extraordinaire, and somebody that I've also gotten to know, over the last several years more and more. And I definitely consider Lynne a very good friend of mine. I've met her face to face a few times, other than on screen at the Scares That Care AuthorCon, and the fact that she wasn't there this year, really, I felt that presence big time. But she's got a good excuse because Lynn is and still is in Canberra, Australia, the beautiful
Yay!
land down under. Because about a year and a half or so ago, I think, correct my timeline if I'm wrong, your life certainly took an abrupt change to what you're normally used to at that point, and it kind of kicked off this, cross country, cross ocean, amazing adventure of you rediscovering yourself, finding out what you're really all about, and essentially rebuilding yourself from the inside out, which is what we're going to what we're going to totally talk about here. And I know that's going to have lots of weaves and turns and things as we get going, as is often the case. So I'm going to start off, Lynn, by maybe if you can fill us in and start us off by, what you're cool sharing about this abrupt change in your life and what kicked off what is end up being this incredible, awesome journey of you.
Well, a little over a year and a half ago, I found out I was getting a divorce, and it was a big shock. I had been married for 26 years, and we'd been both part of the same horror community for 30. And I, I was devastated because I everything I had worked towards was gone, and it ended up being the best thing that could have possibly happened to me. Um, I I ended up traveling because I wasn't sure what I was going to do, where I was going to live, because I just it was it was from the day I found out until we separated. It was 6 weeks till we had filed for divorce, and that's really abrupt. And
Yeah.
so there was just so much whirling around, and so I decided, instead of like finding some tiny squalid apartment in Atlanta, I would just travel. My friends started reaching out to me and said, "Come and visit. We'd love to have you come and visit." And they didn't know that I would keep a list. And so I actually have a list of friends in over 38 states and I don't know, I think it might be 7 countries now that have invited me to come and stay. And so I just started making my way through that list. And it's been amazing.
That's just amazing because, again, as somebody that's been through a divorce, although I mean I saw it coming for quite a while, really, so it wasn't perhaps quite as abrupt as your experience. At the same time, I I mean most people would just sort of find a rock to crawl underneath and wait for somebody to tell them when it's over. But you didn't do that. You went on this whirlwind adventure and you decided to take this abrupt change and turn it into the start of this amazing journey. So I want to ask you though, because I know I'm making it sound like, a challenging part of your life happened, and then you just thought, "Hey, let's go on an adventure." I'm sure there was maybe a smaller or a larger gap in there. Do you mind maybe sharing a little bit about, not so much even going into all the nitty gritty details of everything, but that point of maybe where you were mentally when you discovered that one chapter of your life was over, perhaps not knowing what the heck to do with your life, and then deciding to make some big changes in your life and literally hit the road to begin this journey that I'm sure you obviously didn't know where it was gonna that you didn't know was gonna end up you were gonna end up across the world, I'm
I
sure.
did not. I absolutely did not. Um, well, I think for starters, I was in shock, and um, I was really depressed. But we had a really aggressive time frame because the lease was up on the house in 6 weeks. So I had to go through 26 years worth of stuff while finishing our taxes and a really critical commission that had to be done during that time. And it was crazy. And then I went and stayed with some friends in Atlanta, where I had just my first moment of just being able to be quiet and peaceful and cry on my own, I guess. And then Florida and stayed with my oldest friend. Uh, and but then when I started, I guess I just needed time, and I kept during this initial time, I just kept beating myself up because it was so hard to work, and I I don't have royalties. When I work, I get paid. When I work, I get
Mhm.
paid. And so if I couldn't work, I couldn't get paid. And so it was just such trauma. Everything I was trying to do took 20 times longer than it should have and never turned out the way I thought it was going to turn out. And it was, it was so debilitating because my brain just got incredibly foggy. Like, it was hard to focus on a lot of things. It was hard to do anything. A lot of things would trigger me. And, but when I started traveling, I, we had already always said we loved to travel, but we
Yeah.
never really a lot. We'd go to conventions and things, but we never traveled overseas or went on long, wild vacations or trips and to stay with friends. And
Yeah.
now I realize it's that I wanted to travel because I'm doing it.
Yes.
And so and I'm still as I have a lot more challenges than we had. And
Yeah.
so and and oh my gosh, it's just been amazing. I mean, I stayed at a beach house in right after the divorce became final. I stayed at a beach house in Alabama with my dear friend Cindy O'Quinn, and it was just 3 weeks with a balcony that looked over the Gulf of Mexico for like super cheap. And it was just, and at night you could hear the waves across. It was amazing, and
That sounds
it
awesome.
inspired. Oh God! And we could walk on the beach every night, and every morning, and it just to have that moment of being so close to nature. It was very, very transformative to me. It reminded me how much I loved the ocean,
Yeah.
and and then I decided that I wanted to go back to that I wanted to go to StokerCon because I hadn't missed a StokerCon in anything that was in the U.S. or Canada. I had gone to
Yeah.
since 2005, I guess. And so it was San Diego that year. And so I drove from Florida to San Diego by myself. And I would just like tried to figure out like, okay, where can I stop? Oh, well, I have Armand up in Jacksonville. I'll start there. And then, and like, it's, I just planned my trip. My trip went like this across the United States because I'm like, this is where I have people. And so but some people I stayed with were old friends. Some friends were people that were new friends. Some were people that I had never met in person, and they opened homes to me. And one of my favorite stories, I was in Salt Lake City, and one of my friends, we had never met in person. And when I pulled up, she said, well, I did tell my husband that you were coming a couple of weeks ago, but he only remembered this morning.
Oh,
And
wow.
she said, and he said to, do you, he said, aren't you afraid of bringing a complete stranger into your house, into our house? And she said, I'm pretty sure she's going to be more afraid of staying with us than we are of her. And I
Yeah.
got there, and I was late, and it was because sweaty, and it was in the middle of summer. It was so hot, and I get there, and she's like, "You need to go meet my husband's pigeons," and I'm like, "Okay, can I take a shower?" She's like, "No, no, go meet the pigeons first." And so I go out there, and he is like this famous pigeon breeder,
Oh
and
wow.
he has the uh, oh, what are they called? The cages. They're not cages.
Coops.
The coops. Yes, the coops.
Yeah.
And so they're all kind of separated in different ways. And he's like, "Would you like to hold a baby pigeon?" And I'm like, "Yes." So I hold
Oh
my
wow.
hands, and he puts this baby that looks, it's like 2 days old in my hand. And then he's like, "Would you like to hold a pigeon that is 2 weeks old?" And I'm like, "Yes." And so 2 weeks old, and then he's like 2 months, and I'm like, "Yes." And then I'm like,
He's
"Oh,
like
they
building
all
you up.
peed on me. That's why you." They all peed on me, so that's why you had to wait. Why I had to wait for my shower. I get it. It's totally worth it.
Well, that is awesome. And I mean, obviously, that's probably like the last thing that you thought of is I'm going to start my journey and I'm going to go and meet some pigeons and hold them on my
Right.
hand and get peed on by birds. It's going to be awesome.
It was it was amazing, and and there were just all kinds of adventures like that. And I started at the Atlantic coast and ended up on the Pacific Ocean. And so I started with my feet in the Atlantic, and then went with some friends to my feet to get my feet in the Pacific at the end. And
Yeah.
it was just, I'd never done that. I was afraid. The first couple of stops were places that I had been to before, and I was absolutely terrified to be traveling by
Yeah.
myself, because I was going to be going to places that I had never been before. But even these first two, there was something really weird about it not being like it always was. You know, to be, I was afraid that driving would aggravate my knee. I had a problem with my knee, and but I had lost some weight, and so that was helping my knee. I've now lost almost 100 pounds, and that's helped the knee a lot.
Jeez. That's amazing.
So it's crazy, and I eat everything on while I'm traveling.
Oh my God.
I eat
Your food pictures that you put up are, oh, I think I've gained weight just looking at them.
it's just been, I don't know, it's just been amazing. And so, but I get a lot more exercise, and I've also learned how to kind of like not only to eat. I eat very blandly and basic when I'm not eating with friends or not adventure eating.
Yeah.
So if I'm just at home, I eat super, super, super crazy healthy, so that when I go out, if I want 3 scoops of ice cream, I can have it. So,
Exactly. And I mean,
right.
the ice cream that you have, I don't know. I swear there's like some sort of, I don't know, magnetic attraction of these ice cream places, like word's gotten out, where they're like, we sense that Lynn is in our vicinity. We need to put out the bat signal and attract her to this because we've got the weirdest, most exotic flavors of ice cream, and the world must know about this, and Lynn must try it because the ice creams and that you come up with, I'm like, they even make that? They put that together? Like, that just fascinates me.
Ice cream is one of my favorite missions while I travel, not just because I love ice cream, which I do,
Yeah.
but there is something very special about every place you visit has the best ice cream ever. That's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you where
Yeah.
it is, and they will be so proud of it. And you'll go, and there'll be this great story behind it. It was a dairy from 1854, or
Yeah.
it was, we started 3 years ago, and we did all these bizarre, crazy flavors, or and so everybody has a story of the place, but also you get to kind of see what the people are like in the community, and they're
Yeah.
all happy, because who's not happy when they're eating ice cream?
Exactly. Yeah, no,
And
that's amazing.
it often takes me to a totally different part of town that I would have never been to otherwise. So ice
Right.
cream is I do love ice cream, but is also kind of like my covert way of exploring a city. So
That's really cool. That's and that's a good point to make too. You go, people are generally very happy eating ice cream. I mean, we have a Dairy Queen just up the street from us, and that's a particular ice cream place that I don't believe that one is an eat-in. So of course, nobody wants to eat ice cream in their car. So unless you're, my 6-year-old son, so you got all these people outside the ice cream place eating their ice cream, talking, and I mean, you could talk amongst yourselves, but especially if it's just you, what are you going to do? Just stare at other people looking at an ice cream cone? You're going to talk to them. Hey, how's it? So that's a really cool covert way of getting to know the, the real inner city culture of a place as you're traveling. That's a good tactic. I like that.
Well, talking to other people is also because I'm not exactly shy, and I'm an
No.
extreme extrovert. But
Yeah.
when I first started traveling, there had been all these things that people tell you about when you're a solo female traveler, about
Right.
how to be careful about this and watch out for that, and that's dangerous, and this is dangerous.
Yeah.
And it made me very anxious. And uh, there were times when I needed help with something, when I needed guy help with something that I was just like, well, I guess I'm going without that. And because
Right.
they kind of teach you to be very afraid. And when I started traveling overseas, um, it was, I felt very comfortable asking anybody anything. And, uh, and I think part of it is the experience of traveling over the US and realizing that being on high alert all the time isn't necessary. You need to be on medium high alert.
Right.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's okay to meet other people, and most people are really good. And in fact, I have everybody that I have met on my travels has been a positive experience, really. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy, but yeah, so I learned to be a lot more comfortable exposing my vulnerabilities to people. And sometimes it's just stupid, silly things. So, like, I was here in Australia, and I was in Melbourne, and I went to
Yeah.
the grocery store, and I needed to, because I had rented a tiny house for an entire month. And so I needed my own laundry detergent now. All of a sudden, I couldn't use friends' uh, washers. So I went to the grocery, and I'm like, it's all just like, I don't know which one to get. Which one do I get? And
Yeah.
so I just picked a random woman. I'm like, hi, I'm American, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And can you help me pick out a good laundry detergent? And so she did. She's like, now it's eucalyptus, and now you'll smell Australian too.
No,
And
yeah, now you'll smell down under.
yeah.
Yeah. That
And so,
authentic koala bear mixed with, I don't know, kangaroo smell,
right.
outback smell. Yeah, that's well. I mean, it's so funny, and I want to touch on that a little bit too, and kind of go backwards a little bit because I know you just brought us into you're part of Australia, part of the journey, which obviously can't escape because it's right behind you, and
Yes.
you are in it.
If it weren't raining, we would be where the kangaroos are right now. So
Yeah, you know
they're
what? I'm
right
a
down
little
the street.
disappointed that you're not taking us like doing the whole walkabout thing and grabbing a stick and seeing how Lynne Hansen survives the outback jungles of Australia, fighting off crocs, angry kangaroos, and throwing boomerangs at miscreants along the way. This works just fine. Uh, but it was really interesting what you mentioned a bit about how you've sort of learned to not be on, high alert, and you've come to sort of accept certain things as far as that goes and the vulnerability, which I think is super important. I mean, I think like anybody, people or animals that the core nature of things. And I find that people that would do you harm anyways, they're going to sense those high alert, fearful people, and they're going to gravitate to those people, I find. So I think it just seems fitting that you found that just by being good, positive you, people are going to pick up on the vulnerable you. So I think you're going to get those kind of people gravitating towards you, and anybody else that would maybe be apt to do somebody harm is going to steer from you because yeah, they're not gonna, they're messing with the wrong woman.
Well,
So
it's been crazy. Like, I had tickets to go to a comedy show with a friend, and my friend ended up not being able to go. So I
yeah.
went by myself, and I had my cane. I wasn't walking well. And I had no idea where I was supposed to be. And it was like a big show with lots of people, and I had no idea. And I finally just was like, did I hear you? Are you going to this comedian? can you show me, can I go with you where you're going? And, you know, and it's just like, and I was comfortable doing that. And I have to say that I would have worried about doing that. Um, that is very natural for me now, but it wasn't when I was married. And
Interesting.
I was very uncomfortable because um, I was very uncomfortable doing it because felt like it wasn't something that would make him comfortable. And so I tried to
Fair.
really do that. But now I'm like,
Yeah.
this is lovely. I mean, this is just absolutely lovely. I make friends just on the street, and yeah, I mean, but it's been it's been lovely learning new cultures. I spent 3 months in New Zealand. I spent
Yeah.
just about 3 months in Australia. I actually leave tomorrow for
Oh.
back to go to the States.
Well,
And
that's why it's raining. The Australia is crying.
right, I have friends who said they've notified the border patrol. All of my friends have notified the border patrol in Australia, and I shall not be allowed to leave.
Oh, jeez. Well, you know what's funny is I've been watching a lot of, it's like junk food for the brain. It's amazing. Border Patrol, and
Yeah.
I guess they did a lot of episodes in Australia, because a lot of the shows that I watch happen to take place at the Australian border. And even when they're being strict on somebody and essentially saying, "Look, are you stupid? What were you thinking, bringing all this uncooked fish with you, or shoving cocaine up your wazoo?" and thinking you're gonna get away with that. Even when they're chastising all these people, they're so nice. You know, they're such a friendly, laid back group of people. Um, and I hope that they don't listen to any of your friends. so because I know you got stuff to do, and then I want to pivot back to that part about that Australia. They don't have to rain all these tears because they haven't seen the last of you. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. You mentioned how through practice and doing it over and over again, that you've been comfortable being vulnerable, and that wasn't always your thing, which honestly, it kind of surprised me a little bit, because even before that, the change happened. I had a chance to get to know you mostly online. We did a podcast before this talking about your cover art and your, hey, make that magic happen, and impress everybody that you do artwork for. And I'll put a link down below too, so that it'll go to your page and people can see this amazing artwork.
Oh, thank you.
Then they'll understand. So we'll do that. And I've had a chance to talk to you, as I mentioned before in the conversation, a couple times at AuthorCon, and it always seemed like you really put yourself out there. So it was very interesting that to hear you talking about being comfortable, being vulnerable. And where I really saw that, when I really, I guess, got a first glimpse of that I hope you don't mind me talking about, is you literally let the whole freaking world in when your divorce was finalized, and you had a celebration in a haunted, I believe it was a bed and breakfast.
That's exactly right.
Okay,
The Phantom
because no
History
one knew it
House in
was just a bunch of
Florida.
people lived in a haunted house, and you convinced them to have you come over and invite all your friends. So that was an amazing place. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that? Because that must have, for the outside world, I'm thinking that took a lot of, proverbial balls to let it out and talk about this thing. And obviously, you did positive shit only during
Yeah.
that interaction with everybody else. But at the same time, I think you're overcome with just all the amazing people that showed up there and weren't
I
expecting it. And how vulnerable could you, it doesn't get much more vulnerable than that. Can you maybe walk me through kind of getting in touch with that vulnerability and what that took? And
it's just I knew I wanted to I knew well basically I knew I was going to need some support that day. I
yeah,
knew that it was going to be hard, and no matter how positive I was looking at things, it was going to be hard, and I was going to need my friends. And I have friends all over the world, and I love them all. And
yeah,
I couldn't bring them all to a single place. And so um, Steve and Tim, who ran the Phantom History House Bed and Breakfast, invited me to
yeah,
come and stay, and they even did a little tour where we went around. I had, I don't know, over folks on my little Zoom, and everybody brought their own drinks, and we cheered. I think one of
Yeah.
the first things somebody started saying something kind of askance, and I was like, nope, nope, only positive here. That's all we do.
Yeah.
Not talking about the other things.
Right.
And the way I look at it is that I have my life and they have theirs, and that's
Mhm.
an awesome. I love my new life, and so, but the bed and breakfast, to walk around and be able to like entertain my friends too, because Tim and Steve were great
Yeah.
to tell each of the stories of the rooms, and I got to stay in
Yeah.
the Ouija board room, and they even bought me flowers and made me my own cheesecake and made a little sign that said on a tombstone that said, Lynne Hansen, thank you for sharing your special day with us. And I'm just like, oh my
That was
gosh.
amazing, and they did an appearance on the Zoom chat as well.
Yes,
I
yes,
think I think they were both there, if I'm not mistaken.
yes. And they
Yeah.
went around and talked a little bit about the different parts of the house, and
Yeah.
it was just so wonderful. It made me feel like I don't want to say like I wasn't alone. I want to say it in a positive way. It made me feel like I was so part of a community.
Yeah.
And that and that's another thing that traveling has really done for me, because when you have an abrupt shift and you
Yeah.
start questioning everything that you kind of based your whole entire life on, you
Mhm.
like, what is wrong? What you just it's hard to make sense of it all. And um the nicest thing is every time I would travel and stay with a friend, and their perception of me was my perception of me, then it built that confidence to say, it's okay to be me. It's okay to
Right.
be who I am. And because my friends already see that, and I already see that. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry that that wasn't seen by everybody. But, it was very, very healing. And traveling, there is something magical about people saying, come and be part of my life. And
Yeah, it's
I'm
something
going to,
else.
you can see me when I haven't brushed my teeth and my hair's all messed up. And
Yeah.
we're going to sit up till 3 o'clock in the morning visiting. And I'm going to take you to my favorite ice cream shop, or I'm going to take you to a wrestling match, or I'm going to take you to the Cryptid Museum. And
Yeah.
because these are places I love, and each
Yeah.
friend had something like that. And it just gave me great confidence, but the entire time it was like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, constantly. And
Yeah.
um when I was traveling, I couldn't see a therapist because the United States has all of these rules about they're guided by state. So every time I would move to a new state, I needed to talk to a new
Mm.
therapist.
Yeah.
And that was just devastating. And one of the best things that happened in New Zealand was I was in one place for 3 months, and I got to see the same therapist for 3 months.
Oh,
And
that makes a big difference.
that helped. And she's out of the UK. And so she's also licensed in Australia. So I've gotten to continue to see her in Australia.
Oh,
And
that's fantastic.
she can continue to see me in the United States no matter where I am, because they don't have the same rules.
That is amazing.
Yes.
That's,
So
no, that's super good.
so that has been wonderfully helpful. And and so, but part of it has been just trying to do the work, to not
Yeah.
ignore the feelings that I had, to learn how to accept the feelings that I had and process them. I read an amazing book by Mel Robbins over the holidays. Mel
Okay.
Robbins, Let Them, and I recommend that to every single person. If you
Okay.
it's about how to deal with the emotions that come up over things you can't control.
Hmm.
And there were some really, really wonderful techniques that helped me kind of accept the emotions that I was feeling and move on. And so I was doing that doing that at the beginning of the first 3 months of the year. I was on my 3 months of therapy. And then I went to uh, I went to a place called Rotorua in New Zealand, which was um, it had a lot of Maori culture uh, and experiences, and I wanted to learn more about the First Nations people in in New Zealand. And I was absolutely just blown away. I met this woman, her name's Tatiana, and she was I went to see her for the first time because she had, I don't know, something like 500 five-star reviews on TripAdvisor.
Wow.
There was not a single negative review, and she was an amazing massage therapist. But she was also a Maori healer, and
Okay.
so I went to this first session, and it was this combination of therapy, the best massage I've ever had, uh, a guided breathing, meditation, and prayer and ritual and song. And
What? That sounds like why
I
would you ever
know,
leave?
right? It was incredible. And the first session, I hadn't. Uh, the first session I did with her, I was. We were about. It was supposed to be about 70 minutes, and about halfway through, she's like, "Hold on a second," and she goes and she calls somebody, and she's like, "I'm gonna be late. This one's gonna take a little extra time."
Oh, jeez. At what point you're like, "Thanks, I think, I don't know."
Right? And so, but she did all of these things. So it starts with a prayer and
Yeah.
anointing with these this kind of mist and herbals, and then she shows you like she kind of walks you through connecting with your ancestors, which was really funny. My first time, she says, think about uh, envision your ancestors, this entire world of people who are loving you and caring for you because your ancestors love you. And I said, not mine, because my mom and dad, and then my brother, who he actually when I found out about the divorce, he was living in my parents' house. He's 15 years older than me, and
Yeah.
that was half mine. And he and I had a fight, and he never spoke to me again. And he died. So in September, he never spoke to me again. And then
Oh,
in
jeez.
July, he died and
Oh,
had rewritten
man.
his will to exclude me from my parents' inheritance. So, including their house. And so I
Jeez.
was like, yeah, none of those people really care about me. And
Yeah,
she's
my
like,
answer is, "Can we move on from my ancestors?"
and she would not let me. She said, "There, you have many people who love you on the other side."
Hmm.
And it was just it was just magical. And the massage was the best massage, but she would go through my back, and she would start asking questions like, do you have any, she'd be like, this part here, this is this part here, this is about do you have any, outstanding issues with a male relative? And I'm like, yeah. And she'd be like, yeah, I can tell. And she would work there. And then
Huh.
but it was just so releasing. And it it was just, I felt totally different afterwards. And so I booked another session 2 weeks later. And after that session, she it was like she went through this process where she started uh, she started coughing while she was working on me. And at one point she said, excuse me, hold on. She had to step out and cough, and she came back, and she couldn't, she was having a hard time talking, and she finally squeaked out, is there anything you haven't told your ex-husband? And I was like, well, everything, because he wouldn't talk to me about why he was divorcing me. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, she's like, and when she said those words, and I said, because now I know that my closure is, this is what I told her. I said, my closure is that I will not get closure. And that's okay.
Mm.
And when I said that, her voice came back. And she was so freaked out. She said, "This has never happened to me before."
Wow, I'm a little afraid just listening to this. That's and sorry, you said, that she was, or is a Maori
Yeah,
healer?
Maori. So
Maori, and
she's
is
an
that tied in
indigenous.
with her culture then, or is that
Yes. Yeah.
okay.
And
So
she's
that's pretty
just,
tied into that area, that region then.
yes. And she
Okay,
also went through a very similar divorce. And she was about, I don't know, maybe 3 years younger than me.
okay.
Um, and she, but it was just amazing what she guided me through, and how different I felt each time I visited her. I ended up visiting her 4 times.
Yeah,
And the fourth time, it always took me a long time to kind of get into the mode of the breathing and the meditation.
yeah.
It took me a while to kind of get out of my head. And the last time I said,
Oh,
I am
yeah.
going to get in my head before I go to the session, because it was going to be my last one. And so I did my own guided breathing and meditation and just stayed off of social media, all of that. And I
Yeah.
went in and I had the most amazing experience with her. And where, I don't know. So a lot of this is going to be horror, people. So you're not going to think I'm too weird, but I genuinely felt like I
Yeah.
was talking to my ancestors.
Wow.
Um, I had this experience. The first person I saw was my mom,
Wow.
uh, and she was so glad to see me. And she said she was sorry that she hadn't been a better role model for standing up for herself. Because if she had stood up for herself, I would have known how to do that earlier.
Yeah.
I went and talked to my dad, and my dad, he said, "Hey, Nanny," which that was my nickname as a kid,
Yeah.
because it was for Nanny Goat, because I ate everything as a kid. So he called me Nanny. And my dad wasn't sad for a damn thing, because he said, "I took care of my family." And he never said he was sorry that he wasn't around when I was little or anything. He just said, "I'm glad for the times we did get to spend together."
Yeah. Wow.
And then I talked to my brother, and we fought. And he said, "I don't." I said, "When I needed you the most," I said, "I have never asked you for anything, and I have helped you my entire life, and I've never asked you for anything. And when I needed a place to stay, he wouldn't let me stay." And he said, and I said, "And it just breaks my heart that you could not help me when I needed you most." And he said, "No," he said, "when you needed me most was when you were little." He said, "Because when you were little, I took care of you and I watched out for you." And
Hmm.
it's true. When I was little, my brother, he was 15 years older than me. So my love of horror came from my brother. We saw
Oh, okay.
all six, the first six Star Wars movies opening night together, including the first one.
Yeah.
He taught me how to take care of books. Don't bend the backs. Put things in Mylar, please.
That drives me nuts.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, he taught me so much of what I loved, and he was the world's best big brother when I was growing up. He would take me on weekends like a divorced father. He'd come and pick me up on Friday and drop me off on Sunday, and have dinner with mom and dad on Sunday. And I would just go around with him, whatever he wanted to do. He would just come and take me. Mom and dad never asked him. He was a wonderful
Yeah.
big brother. And now I realize exactly what he did for me when I was little kept me put me in a much better position than he had growing up, because my dad was a salesman when my brother was little. So he was traveling all the time. He was
Yeah.
never home with my brother, and it was, and I started looking at all, putting together lots of pieces and parts about my mom and my dad and my brother, and seeing them as people for the first time, and not just as my mom and my dad and my brother.
Right. Yeah.
And I finally said to my, I so it was very enlightening. And I went back to my mom and I said, "Mom, are you happy here? Do you have somebody to talk to?" And she's like, "Oh yes, my Aunt Betty is here, and Grandma's
Yeah.
here, and Viv, which is her best friend, she's here, and we just sit around, we talk all day, and we have the best time." Interesting that she didn't have a father. and and I went to my father and I said, "Dad, are you okay here? Are you happy? Do you have somebody here for you?" And um, He said, "Oh, yes." He says, "Grandma's here, and she's the only one who cared about me when I was little, and she still takes care of me here." My dad,
Wow.
my dad was abandoned when he was a kid and got shuffled around quite a bit, and never had a real strong family until he made his own.
Right.
Um, that
Yeah.
it's not that the other people didn't try, but it was in the middle of the Great Depression, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
And
There's reason to call it the Great Depression. Yeah.
right, and so he, and so he's, "Oh yeah, grandma's here," and then it made me realize that I went back to my brother, and I knew he didn't have anybody on the other end. He he and my mom and dad had some challenges, and he pushed away anybody who tried to get close,
Mm.
and it made me really sad. And so I told him, I said, "Chris,
Yeah.
don't worry, because someday I'll be over there, and when I am, I'll be there for you. But until I am, I'm going to send all my love to you, so you will still have somebody who loves you all the time."
Wow.
And I said, "I'm going to let go of all of the anger that I have, because as a segue, during the divorce, I was never angry. I was never vindictive or feeling. The only thing I was sad, sad and
Yeah.
lost. And but my brother, I was angry with, because he he knew I was living out of my car
Yeah.
and left his house, left mom and dad's house to his three ex stepchildren, and and it was heartbreaking, and I was angry, and but at that moment I realized I loved him more than I was angry, and
Mm.
I said, "Chris, I'm going to let go of my anger, because it no longer serves me,
Right.
and I'm going to let it go." And in my mind, I saw this picture of these crows, this image of these crows just leaping out, these angry crows leaping out of my chest and going up and around the sun. And I said, "If I let go of my anger, you can see how well it works. And maybe someday you'll be able to let go of your anger too. And they can go around the sun together and find somebody else who needs protecting, because I don't anymore."
Yeah. That's huge.
And now whenever I get angry or upset about my brother, I just immediately just tell him I love him,
Yeah.
and and let it go. And I cried. I cried for 2 hours during all of this. It was
Jeez,
incredible.
no
And,
kidding. Like, just how powerful was that? I mean, it's
and
yeah, you've been carrying this burden around for such a long time, and I mean, it's
yeah, yeah,
that's a powerful thing, and I think that your response to that was totally natural. I mean, uh, who wouldn't feel anger there, and all of a sudden you're just thinking, great, so now this person I thought I could count on, I can't even count on that. What the hell? So I mean, I think that I'm sure it was a much that anger was very layered up inside of you, and he probably was a great outlet for it at the time, and probably deserved some of it a little bit, at least in that particular, pinpoint of a moment. But that's amazing that you were able to go through that experience with that lady and your own work and kind of step back and sort of expand the scope and look at the big picture.
it was amazing. And when I was done, we sat and talked. And she said, "I want to take you to my village." She said, "Because we have in our village, there's a river that runs through it, and it leads out into the big lake." And she said, "And we have a guardian of the river. And when we have something that we need to let go, something that no longer serves us, we go to the guardian of the river, and we get in the river, and we let it go, and the guardian of the river takes it away for us." And I and she said, "And I got some stuff I want to let go of too. So let's just go." And she took and we got in the river. We each kind of did our own little thing and made our own little ritual to feel. And I genuinely felt this energy being taken away, all these things that no longer served me. In and it was magical. She actually filmed some of it for me.
Oh,
And then
wow.
at the end she did there's a greeting, a Maori greeting where you press foreheads and touch noses. And she says, "Has anybody ever done the hongai with you?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, I want to." And so it's an extension of respect and community. And she said, what we do is we put our foreheads and our noses touching, and then we exhale, and then we breathe in, and our breaths mingle. And we did that. And
Wow.
she was amazing. And uh, I'm going to get to visit her when I have to have a stopover in New Zealand on my way back to the US to pick up luggage that
Oh,
I
okay.
left there.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get to see her for a night. But she discovered about 2.5 weeks ago that she has terminal cancer. And so she
Oh,
has
no.
colon and liver cancer, and it's inoperable. And
Jesus.
to feel that somebody who did so many good things for so many people is just going to be gone is horrible. Because she changed my life.
My God.
After that first session, my brain fog went away. The brain fog that I had had for a year and a half, it went away. I could finally just sit back down and work again.
Yeah.
And I think it was a combination of her session, maybe it was the second session.
Yeah.
It was a combination of her efforts, reading Let Them, being 3 months into therapy, and all the other things that I've tried to do while I've been traveling. And it was she was magic for me, and we're and I'm going to miss her a lot. She was very, very wonderful.
That's absolutely heartbreaking. Wow.
So,
Yeah.
but
That's so sad. I mean, it's no doubt that the things that she did to heal so many people, including you, I mean, that stuff's going to keep going for sure. And I suppose that's going to be her extension. But that's, geez, I'm getting goosebumps because, very much like you were saying before, even regarding your brother and that moment of being so angry with him and then him, unfortunately passing away. And there's all these unresolved things. But then being able to see him and going through your ancestry and realizing that he did such good things to take care of you when you were younger, it feels really almost tied into maybe the experience you've had with this amazing woman that it's like people come into your life for a certain particular reason, and their wholeness may not be perfect, but the time that that they were there, that they were good, it's profound and everlasting. And it sounds like your brother was early on, and this awesome lady was clearly later on in her life and the start of the rest of your journey.
you know, another one of the things, because I've worked really hard to take back the good times that I had while I was married, because when something this dramatic happens,
Yeah.
it's easy for your brain to just make it all bad. And it wasn't all
Right.
bad,
Right.
right? And so to go through, and I've gone and visited places. So I was in New Orleans when I found out about the divorce, and that was also where we went on our honeymoon. I was on my own,
Yeah.
and with a friend, and that was where we went on our honeymoon. It's where I saw my favorite concert of all time, the Foxborough Hot Tubs.
Yeah.
It was just one of my favorite cities of all time. And then all of a sudden, it had the most horrible negative connotation it could ever have.
Jeez, that
And
that's irony defined right there.
right, and
Jeez.
it was terrifying. And I felt like my city had been taken from me. And I realized I was not going to allow it to be taken from me. And
Yeah.
so when I was in Alabama, it was, I don't know, like a 2.5 hour trip to New Orleans. So Cindy
Yeah.
and I went back to New Orleans and I showed her some of my favorite places. And we explored New Orleans and we went to this little shop and I bought this bracelet. So it is just a little black leather bracelet.
Yeah.
And I remind, I wear it to remind myself that New Orleans is my city too. I still love New Orleans, even though I had a really bad experience there. I
Yeah.
and I have other things like that that remind me. They're like little talismans of the the things that I've experienced, the things that help me remember the positive side of life, and that's been really, really helpful as I've been traveling.
Yeah.
But it was hard. It was hard to go to my first convention post divorce. It was hard to go to my first StokerCon post divorce. Um,
Right.
but all of those things, you know, I made it through, and I have the most amazing friends who just made sure that I was always okay, and that I just don't know. I didn't realize I had that many friends. I mean, I knew I had a lot of friends, but I didn't realize that I had that many friends who said, just come and stay with me. Just
Right.
come in. You know, I had friends who said, we're not on your travel map, but we want to support you. So we want to host you. So here's money for a hotel one night. When I was in the States,
Wow.
I stayed in 3 hotels the entire time. I traveled from I traveled from October 31st to uh, December 10th, a year and a bunch
Yeah.
to, and I stayed in a hotel like 3 times and they
Wow.
were all
Yeah, because I
hosted
mean,
by,
you've even slept in the like lived in the desert or stayed in the desert and in a what do you call those? A yurt.
oh, I did. Oh my God. That
Which
was
sounds
so,
incredibly romantic and awesome, but at the same time, you're in the middle of a desert on your own. Like that's that's so you. That's so adventure you.
well, it was also the day after I had fallen and re-injured my knee. I was at a hostel outside of Yellowstone, and I got up in the middle of the night, forgetting where I was, tripped on the carpet, and fell. And my knee went in ways that cheerleaders should not do splits.
Oh,
And I thought, oh, it'll just be better in the morning. It was not. It was so. I had to drive an hour and a half on the bad
oh,
knee, it was the right knee, and to go to an urgent care and
jeez.
that was the day before I spent that amazing day at the yurt. And
Yeah.
but it was I've gone through physical therapy when I got back to Atlanta. I couldn't stop because I was on my way to being artist guest of honor at Nikon, and so I had to go. I had to keep going. I couldn't
Right,
just
yeah.
heal, which was
Yeah.
probably the worst decision ever because it's just continued to get worse, and it's gotten a lot worse while I've been down south because I'm in the southern hemisphere, because I'm like, I'm only going to be here once. Of course I'm going to go to Hobbiton and see all the
Of
Hobbit
course.
houses,
Yeah,
or
and thank you for sharing. I mean, that's the awesome thing too is that you're obviously doing all these things solo despite doing them often with amazing people, but even that you don't internalize or keep to yourself, you share, it reminds me of this Robert Munch story that I actually read to my son yesterday, where it's, in kindergarten, we share everything. But in your adventures, you share everything. And it's awesome being able to sort of see just glimpses of these things on your social feeds and things like that, such as, the little Hobbit. Sorry, what it's called, Hobbit Town?
Hobbiton. Hobbit.
Hobbiton.
Yeah,
I remember the pictures. I just didn't remember the name of it. And these little tiny things and being in the actual homes of the hobbits and like that's yeah. So it almost in a sense it kind of feels like we're all there with you.
it's just so much fun. And I also learned while I was traveling, I could not share the negative things until I had solved the problem. And
Yeah.
that is actually always my methodology for social media. I do not hide the negative things that happen to me,
Right.
but I share them after I've worked through them. So if I have a panic attack, I'll tell people that I have a panic attack. But I'll tell them after I said, well, I was really stressed out or I had anxiety about this, but I went for a walk and I meditated and I called a friend and now I'm better. Because it's not that those bad things don't happen. It's just because until I learned that, I would get people who would like message me and they'd just be like panicking, like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm figuring it out. I don't get
Right.
help. I used to have a friend and I was supposed to go to Chicago and she's like, why are you going to Chicago? It's dangerous in Chicago. I'm like, because I have friends there. And then I was
Yeah.
like, I'm supposed to go to Detroit. And she's like, why are you going to Detroit? It's really dangerous there too. And I'm like, okay, trust me. I have friends there too.
It's dangerous everywhere.
It is. But I will tell you, I feel a lot more comfortable in Australia safety wise than I do in the
Yeah.
US.
Which is
Um,
funny because Australia has a bad reputation that everything can kill you out there, and,
yes.
from what I hear, it really can, but
Yeah. But the people not so much.
yeah,
And that's really the big worry.
yeah,
It's I was in Melbourne. Melbourne is like my hometown that I never visited. It's beautiful, creative. It feels like a European city. It's got this huge coffee culture and like a huge,
yeah,
like you can it's people are friendly and just the right amount of extra. In
yeah,
New Zealand, I felt like the Maori were very creative and friendly and community centered and outgoing, but the European Kiwis were not as much like that.
mm,
It was a
yeah,
very kind of restrained world, and that was not a good match for me. Kiwis weren't.
right,
Like, being in New Zealand and feeling like I needed to like restrain myself because I'd worked
mm,
a year and
good.
a half to try not to do that.
Right, right,
And but in Australia, they're not like too extra. They're just the right amount of extra, and so they're always funny and outgoing and welcoming. And Melbourne is absolutely my going to be my new home base once I come back to the United States to get my surgery. My surgery's on June 30th, and then
okay.
once I heal, I'm going to go back to Melbourne because I'm in love with it. It's just magical.
Well, it's interesting too, and I don't know if you want to reveal your host, um, presently, but your host is somebody that I've certainly, we've had conversations before, and one of the things that your host mentioned to me that resonated so very much and is so true in so many different ways is your host told me once, he's like, and a lot of times the secret to trying to find your happiness, your peace in life, and getting through some hardships and complications that you might have is you got to find your people. And
Right.
and I think the same goes towards your places. You got to find your place, the place that you feel most comfortable with. And and it helps, of course, when your people are all over the world. But
It,
it's really seems like you need to do that is to find your people, and it sounds like you've really done that all throughout the states and throughout Australia, New Zealand. Maybe not so much New Zealand, but you
oh,
definitely found one of the
absolutely
most
both.
amazing people in New Zealand. It seems.
It's I have had I want to just do some shout outs to some of the people who have become my
Yeah,
like
please.
bonus home bases. And I know I will miss people, so please forgive me. But I'm going to say right now I'm staying with Erin Dries in Canberra,
Okay.
Australia, and that is it was just been lovely. It just feels like I'm just part of the family here. When I was in when I was in New Zealand, Lee Murray and her family took me in for 3 months and let me
That's
stay with her
that's
and
amazing.
with them. And I will hear the birds on the back porch for the rest of my life, waking me up. And my room had bamboo growing in front of it, and the light that came through the window was just like magical. And but I'm Lee is the one who got me out of the country. She said, "Just come."
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so that was absolutely amazing. Uh, uh, Lisa Morton and Ricky Grove in
Yeah.
LA are that's my California home base forever. My
Yeah.
my friend Sally Bosco in St. Petersburg, Florida, who's my oldest friend, my best friend uh, Betty Rosser in Atlanta, and Anya Martin, who is my constant amazing home base in Atlanta. That's where I'll be staying while I'm recover.
Right.
And
Okay.
Anya is wonderful because she gave me some of the best advice post divorce. She said, uh, 10 years from now, somebody will come up to you and not realize you got divorced. She said it's gonna happen because she was also married to someone who was in that they were both staples in the horror community. And she
Right. Yep.
said,
I know. Yeah.
and you will want to and people will want to talk about it. And she said, you need to come up with one line, one or two lines to get the conversation away from it. And the doing that has saved me. I mean, it was such good advice because when I started, I couldn't, if I ever started talking, I couldn't stop. And then
Yeah.
there was a time I didn't want to talk at all about it. And,
Right.
and so it was just so nice to have a moment where to have that as like a life jacket, I guess, and
Yeah.
to
Do
have
you
somebody
mind if I
that's
ask you what that line is? Because I also still, even though I feel like I'm certainly well into the healing. I mean, it's a healing is just a constant. Um, because stuff is always there because it's part of your life, at least for me. But I also still feel that sometimes I go back and people will ask me about that. They mean well, but then it either ends up being where you feel like I need to tell you more, so it doesn't feel like I'm just turned into some cold-hearted person and that just doesn't exist in my world
right.
anymore. Or yeah, you
Definitely
know what?
hard.
Let me tell you about that. What's your line? Because I would just love to avoid all that.
My line is people would come up and they would say, "I'm so sorry to hear about your divorce," and I would say, "Me too." I said it was a big shock, but I love my new life. And then I would start talking about something that's coming up, like, "Do you know that I'm going to Australia?" you know,
Yeah.
and so it was just easy way to divert it, and you know, that's just it.
Yeah, and it's not bull crap because clearly it's very true. Um, okay, sorry, I'm just gonna wince here a little bit.
oh,
I should also say too, for everybody that's wondering why I'm doing this out of a lazy boy, if you've seen any of my other podcasts, I've actually completely jacked my back up the other day because I had the nerve to stand up after putting a cat on the floor. So Lynn is amazing. So, and you're just like, you know what, just have the conversation wherever you need to have it. I'm
yeah,
in. So I'm currently in my lazy boy recliner. So every once in a while I might adjust myself. I might wince, but I'm not going to whine about it. Except for right there, sort of,
no, it's good.
just
It's
in
good for
case.
people.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's incredible, and I find that that's, when it's true, it makes it even better, and it's probably a reminder for yourself as well that, yeah, that part happened, but now you're enjoying the hell out of this part.
Oh my gosh. I would have never gotten to do the things that I'm doing now. And I've met some of just the most amazing people and uh, just had, I got to see a baby koala. Okay. I got to see a baby koala. That
Yeah, you
was
went to a
amazing.
sanctuary, right?
Oh my gosh. It was crazy.
I can only imagine.
I got to, I went to, I stayed in Sydney for 10 days and I didn't know anybody that I could stay with in Sydney.
Yeah.
And so I ended up at the youth hostel, which is like, I'm 57 and I'm at the youth hostel and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's all about the energy, right? You
right.
100% qualify.
And but I met the most amazing people because I would stay in a room with three other women and they were all kind
Yeah,
of like badass solo travelers from all over the world. I met
yeah.
this woman who was a feminist activist from South Korea.
Wow,
And
gosh, we got some stories.
oh my gosh, she was incredible. She's like, my hair is short, not because I like short hair, but because I want to represent for the feminists. Because unless you only have short hair if you're a feminist,
Very
and
true.
it's just so amazing. And I've met this amazing woman who was one of the only female. Uh, orthopedic surgeons in all of South Korea. It was like, I mean, just crazy. It was wonderful. But the very first night I got there, I had I went up to they had uh, a rooftop bar. So this was a place where I'm paying like, I don't know, $50 a night, $35
That's a
a
lot for a
night.
hostel.
Like, well, it was when you go up to the rooftop bar, you look directly over the Sydney Opera House.
Oh,
And they had music
wow.
playing at the bar. It felt like I was in a $500 hotel.
That's
And
incredible.
and I'm looking and it's just beautiful. And I'm sitting here and I'm
Yeah.
meeting new people and talking, and suddenly fireworks over the Sydney Opera House. And and I was like, I felt like it was saying, welcome to Sydney, Lynn.
Right? Like, talk about being exactly the right time, right place, you belong there. It's supposed to happen, like, that's
It, and
you
my
couldn't
life has
write
been
that story. Like,
it's
wow.
right. I mean, it's just it has been magical like that the entire time. I get random people give me gifts now. I have no idea. Like, it just I went to get a light checked on my car, and
Yeah.
I was just talking, and ended up not being anything that I needed to get fixed. But I told him I was going on a trip, and he's like, "Hold on a second." He goes out, comes back, and he's like, here's a gallon of windshield wiper fluid. You'll need that for your trip." He just gave it to me.
That's awesome. I mean, he's not wrong.
Right? I was in Melbourne, and I just happened to walk past a street art gallery.
Oh,
And it was amazing. And it had like Banksy prints, and it had all these kind of amazing Melbourne street artists.
yeah.
And I started talking to, it was very, very inspirational. And I started talking to the docent there and telling her what a great time I had. She said, "Hold on a second." She goes back in the back and she comes back. She's like, "Here, these are 2 tickets to the Yayoi Kusama exhibit." Right here. This is my water bottle from her.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool.
and she said, "Would you like to go? We were given free tickets, and I've already gone."
Jeez.
And they were like $40 tickets.
Oh my god.
And so I just randomly got 2 tickets to an exhibit that played in Atlanta, and I never got to go see. They showed she had an exhibit in Atlanta, but I never got to go see because it sold out like immediately.
Wow. And obviously at the time you're not thinking, you know what? If I go to Australia,
Right? I can sit
well,
there.
and that's the cool
Just
thing too, sir, is so you never had any intentions before Lee Murray invited you and said, you know, New Zealand's kind of all right. You should come hang out here for a little while. And before you got that invite, so you never intended on going out that way before?
no. I well,
Wow.
Lee, when she found out about the divorce, she was one of the first people who reached out, and she said, "Lynn, come to New Zealand right now. Right now." And I'm like, "I have to file for divorce first." She's like,
Yeah.
come, we've got you."
Okay.
And it took a year of getting kind of things settled to be able to do that. And then when I had my car accident, the question was, do I get a new car and then have to store it if I travel overseas? Or do I just not get a new car and go now? And so that's what I
Yeah.
did. I went now.
Yeah.
I used credit card points. The
Nice.
other best thing about traveling is saying, I know now the value of a plane ticket, and I didn't pay anything for my plane ticket to New Zealand. If I had paid the $2,000 it would have cost, it would have been totally worth every penny. And now I understand that. I understand what that means. Also, I need to
Right.
rewind real quick. I did forget
Sure.
somebody else who was also an amazing, amazing host to me, which was Tom and Sheila Didi in Tucson, Arizona. And they have just been wonderful, wonderful to me too. That, like, if I wasn't moving to Melbourne, I would probably be moving to Tucson. I
Interesting.
fell in love with the desert. So
Yeah, and I
uh,
mean, um one of the folks that I met at AuthorCon, one of the publishers, lives, I don't know the exact region, but does live in Arizona. And from everything I hear and what I've seen previously through other people, and like it really does seem like a pretty phenomenal place to go to. That is on, as a Canadian, as far as ideal places to go and check out throughout the states, Arizona is the one where I'm like, that would just be an incredible place to check out. Yes, it's hot, very hot, but at least it's a different kind of heat.
It people say that and laugh, but it is absolutely true. It would
Yeah.
be 104 degrees in Arizona and not feel as hot as 90 degrees in Florida.
Right, yeah. And even where I am too in Ontario, it's so weird. Like I work with a lot of people that are from India and they come out here thinking air summer's going to be a joke, but then they realize how bloody hot it is because of the humidity. It's like, sure, it might only be 30 degrees here and you're used to maybe like 40 degrees over where you're from, but our 30 degrees is a lot more, it's a lot more suffocating. It's like you don't realize it. Humidity and dryness, that makes all the difference.
Well, it's I've loved traveling and I've loved exploring every little inch. The other thing that I did while I was in the United States is I finished visiting all 50 states last summer.
That's amazing.
I had done something like 43. And so I had 7
Okay.
left, and that's how I determined my return trip uh, from the West Coast to the East Coast. I planned it to go around to the through the states that I hadn't seen, and I ended the one state that wasn't out west was Maine. I had never been to Maine that I could remember, so I ended it at Stephen King's old house, and that was pretty
How
cool.
could you not? Of course. See, I'd even have to ask you. So, did you end up at that? Of course, you did. Now that you've seen all 50 states, what are your favorite states that you've been to? Whether or not the state itself is incredible, or because that's just where the strangest, weirdest story that could only happen to you in that particular state happened.
I do love I do love Arizona. I fell in love with New Mexico, where everybody was like, "Oh, it's so boring there. It's just there's nothing there." And it is just one of the most beautiful states ever. The colors, and of course, because as I'm driving, I can entertain myself forever just looking at things and how light interacts and what makes a good photo and what makes
Yeah.
a good image. And so I love that. I also I fell in love with Wyoming. And I don't think I could live in Wyoming because of its political orientation,
Sure.
but it was the most gorgeous place I had visited, I think. It was the day after I left Yellowstone. So my injury was still super fresh on my knee. And
Right.
but I'm going down this, and all of a sudden there's a small little town that looks like the definition of Americana, and they're all lining up for I don't know, maybe a 4th of July parade or something, but it wasn't quite 4th of July, but they were all like in their pickup trucks with their flags, and they were just like such a lovely, like it is like what the ideal Americana. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, I better get out of the parade route. And then I go around the corner and there is this little building and it says Wild Mustang Sanctuary Visitors Center. A
Oh,
wild horse reservation right there. And I go in and I'm like,
that's cool.
and, and I talked to this woman and she is just so
Yeah.
excited about horses. She is just like she tells me about where all the horses had been spotted that day and starts telling me the stories. This one was with this one, and now he's with these girls, and da 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 da. And this guy, he lost all of his girls, and it was just she was so passionate about horses and told me how they named the foals, and
Yeah.
it's just like brought this amazing amount of joy to me. And I realized in that moment that the first thing that I ever learned to draw as a child was horses.
Ah,
When when it was
beautiful
the
animals.
summer before my 4th grade year, I got a
Yeah.
25-cent how to draw horses book from a oh my gosh, from a yard sale. And
Okay.
so I spent the summer before my 4th grade year drawing horses, like just studying. It's like the first time I had studied something
Yeah.
at length. And then when I got to 4th grade, for a brief time, I was famous for drawing horses. People would come up, the kids would come up and be like, "Can I see the horse?" And I'd open my desk drawer like this to be like, "There you go." and, but
That's great.
but I was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I realized, and I went to see these horses, and there was just this bond, that bond that a 12-year-old girl, a 10-year-old girl feels to horses.
Sure.
And the first time I went in, there was right as at the entrance, there was this stallion, this just really strong stallion. He had 4 mares, and he saw me and he looked at me like, "Do not mess with my women." And I'm like, "Oh, this is lovely." And then I found this lonely bachelor horse, which was the most beautiful. And there was just this connection that I had. And I realized that there was a time in my life that I used to make art for fun, not for money,
Right.
not for work. I used to just draw horses because I wanted to draw horses.
Yeah.
And, and that art should also be fun. And that was something I had forgotten during the divorce, because all I had time to do was to struggle on the next commission and the next commission and the next commission. And so I bought
Right.
myself this tiny little bracelet. It is braided out of horsehair from the
Oh,
refuge.
that's all.
And
That's amazing.
I wear it to remind myself that art is also supposed to be fun. I must work, but I must also play. And so I wear
Right.
that to myself every day. And and that was just the beginning of Wyoming. I went up and it was snow in June. I went up the mountain and there was this crystal water everywhere, and like coming out of the mountain, and just it was just the most amazing, beautiful part of the country. And I will definitely go back and visit that more at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that it's such an incredible backdrop for movies, especially in so many westerns, so many, spaghetti westerns in particular. Yeah, that just looks like an amazing place to fall in love with.
It's but there's just so many places, and to even places like I've been to Indiana a bunch of times, but to get to see
Sure.
different parts of Indiana, or to get
Yeah.
to see, I get to see the Great Sand Dunes in Indiana. I fell in love with all the national parks. I got to go to uh, Joshua Tree National Park, and that
Oh, that'd be an
was
experience.
incredible. Oh my God. And there are so many stories and just things that have happened that have been so meaningful for me. And I think that a lot of times people don't take a moment to pause and think about what things mean.
Right.
And so that's what I'm working on right now, a book called Random Acts of Joy, reclaiming meaning in a chaotic world, because there have been all these little things that I have gone through, that I have people that I've interacted with, experiences that I've had, that when I looked at that and I thought about those things in the bigger picture of what I felt and what I knew, that they became something even more than a bracelet made out of horsehair, right?
Sure. Right.
And, and I think that a lot of people forget, and I've taken things from lots of different cultures, and because I I don't feel like it's cultural appropriation. I think people need to create their own symbolic meanings for things. And I think that instead of it being staying in your own lane, I think it's about embracing the world, because that's our lane. And I've learned so much from so many different cultures and experiences and people with different backgrounds. I mean, I stayed in with friends who were like, who bought an air mattress to host me, and where I was in their living room, where I took up half the living room, you know. And they did that just so they could host me. And then I had other friends that I'd had for a gazillion years, and I pulled up to their house and I was like, oh, I did not know that they were wealthy. And they showed me to my wing, and I'm like, I don't know. I stayed on a couch that was 5 feet long, and I was 5'7", and but
Yeah.
it's just been magical. And these relationships that I've made with folks, made new relationships, strengthened old relationships, having people tell me that because they see me doing X, they do X now, or because they saw me doing X, they now do Y.
Yeah.
And when I sat down in Australia, two of my friends were taking their first solo vacations ever and I was just like, that's awesome,
That is
uh,
incredible. And
and
what would you, because no doubt this conversation is going to spearhead other people to maybe, even at the very least, to get out of their comfort zone. Because I think that's a lot of it too. And it sounds like that's what I'm gathering from a lot of what you're saying as well, is you almost have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, knowing
yes,
that that uncomfortable feeling is only going to be temporary. But for folks that are maybe wanting to start out and maybe not necessarily go across the entire all 50 states or across the entire country or the continental US, but just want to get out of their comfort zone and travel and see new things and see new places. Is there
yeah.
anything specific that you would maybe tell them?
Well, uh, there's a couple there's a couple of things, and one is, uh, don't be afraid to ask for help. We talked about me being vulnerable earlier. The thing that was the most difficult for me is that I love helping people. And when I first found out about the divorce, I became totally dysfunctional. Like I had a hard time doing anything. I lost weight. I actually had to call a friend and say, "You've done weight loss surgery. What are the minimum calories I have to eat now?" And I just it was
Yeah.
so stressful. But the thing that hurt me
Yeah.
the most was that I felt like I would never be able to help anybody else anymore because I couldn't help myself at that
Mm,
time. And I felt so lost. And then I had a friend who reached out to me and he said, I met your friend at a convention and we bonded because she was wearing your shoes. And I said, I know that artist. And he said, that's my friend. And she said, that's my friend too. And they became friends. And then they were talking. And he said, we talked every day. And then suddenly for the last 4 days, she's been gone. And I'm worried about her. And I said, well, if we need to do a safety check, we can do that. I have her address, but let me see if I can find her. And so I talked to a friend who talked to another friend, and within a half hour, we had found her. Her phone
mm,
had broken. She couldn't remember any of her social media passwords to get on through any other venue. Because in that moment, I knew that there would be a day where I could help again. Because until that was about 2 weeks after I found out about the divorce. And to say that, to know that there would be a day when I would be okay enough to be able to help, to have enough spoons to offer spoons to other people. And
yeah.
that was incredible. So it also helped me realize that it was okay for me to ask for help from my friends to get things done, to not be
Right.
ashamed, not to be worried. Because I like helping. Why wouldn't my friends like helping? Because they're my
Right.
friends.
Yeah.
Good people like helping other people. And
Absolutely.
uh, and so don't be afraid to ask for help. And the other part is, you do not need to be as planned as you think you do. I used to be the spreadsheet queen. I had schedules and spreadsheets and everything well documented. And
Yeah.
so many things have gone awry during my travels, and many of them just made for amazing new experiences. And some of them were really big challenges, and I learned things from them. But I laugh. One of the things when I came to Australia, I didn't have my hair color. I had left it in New Zealand, and I was running out. My hair was no longer blue, and I was like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" And I was like, I discovered this lavender, this kind of smoky lavender color, which is now my new favorite color. And I realized that the big thing about traveling is to turn fear into anticipation.
Right.
Because it's not like, what do I do if I can't get my hair color in Australia? It's like, oh, what color am I going to be when I get to Australia if I can't find my color? That's
Yeah.
going to be great, and so it's about how you look at things, how you perceive them. It's not, don't be afraid of them. Look at the opportunity that's heading your way, because there's magic afoot, and when
Mhm.
you just have to be out there to find it. So
Yeah. No, that's really, really good advice. And I mean, I'm certainly not as well traveled as you. I think the average person likely is not as well traveled as you. But as somebody who has traveled a little bit over the last few years, certainly even the biggest travels I've done, say, has gone down from I live southwestern Ontario near Toronto, and going all the way out to the big bad Washington D.C. and Virginia, where we do the author con. Uh, Having even only done that 3 years, I know that every year got a little bit better because I found that I was able to let go just a little bit more, and that spontaneity was okay. Even though I'm not going to lie, Lynn, is that I found myself Saturday, throughout the days, especially as we got later in the day on Saturday, I thought, what am I gonna do for supper? My friend Alex, of course, I'm like, Alex, what are we gonna do for supper? And he's like, I guess we'll figure something out. And I'm like, I guess we're gonna have to, because normally it's like, hey, Lynn, where are you going for supper? And of course, you just somehow got like a million people together and found the best restaurant. So we're like, what are we gonna do? And we had zero idea and of course, I was a vendor this year for the first time, so I
Oh,
couldn't go
that's
around
awesome.
and kind of casually be like, hey, so where are you going for supper? Just out of curiosity, of course. I couldn't do that because I was stuck behind a bloody table. So finally, at the end of it all, I guess somebody's like, hey, we were supposed to go to this place and we had a couple people cancel. So we actually have some room. Do you guys want to come along? And we're like, yeah, we can do that.
Right?
And just completely spontaneous, and things they just happen, and that's part of the adventure. And then I think the fact that all these unplanned, as to pull a Bob Ross, I guess, all these happy accidents happen, that
Right?
you're like, this has so much more meaning now, because I don't think this was supposed to happen, but it happened anyways, and it was friggin' awesome and so much more rewarding than if it was planned. I was like, great, everything went to plan. Everything I expected to happen happened. And it's like, well, where's the adventure in that? Where's the learning experience in that? So I 100%, what you just said, I think you nailed the nail on the head. But it's hard to let go.
It is so hard. And now when something goes awry, I just kind of gleefully shout, "Plot twist! Yes!"
I love that.
Like,
That's so
plot
good.
twist, that's the interesting part of the books, right? Any
You
story,
got
it's
it.
got the
Yeah.
and so I just
Yeah.
kind of go with it now. And I when I travel, I brought watercolors with me because they're the most uncontrollable medium ever. You just have to kind of go with what it is. And I'm like, and I'm really bad at them. And I, I'm like, this is good for me. And I,
Yeah.
I have to let go of it all. And but uh, to be able to see the other side of things now, to be able to see that there's a time where uh, not just that the old Lynn will be back, but the new Lynn is here to stay is huge. It's not just I can get back to where I was before we got divorced. It's that I can be where I am now, and I love it. And
Right.
there's just so many. I'm just so grateful for so many people. I could talk for hours and hours about all the amazing people that have helped me and all the wonderful things that have happened, um, and all the horrible things. I mean, I was essentially living out of my car. I always stayed with friends, but
Yeah.
that was the only thing I had, that in a storage unit. And I totaled my car in October. And the entire time while I was traveling, every time I would shout plot twist, I was fine. And I was just like, I just kept going. But when I lost my car, which was, I was like, this may be a little bit too much. This might be
I
a
mean,
little
it's
bit.
not like you were, I don't know, having the car as the one constant roof above your head and always a place to stay no matter what or anything.
I had just finished turning it into a car camper, so that um, I wanted to visit all the 63 national parks and camp in my car because I had done this transformation. I had everything you need to turn it into a little camper, and that was 2 days. I finished doing that the day I had the car accident. So,
Jeez.
and I was just like, oh my God. And but again, so grateful for Lee Murray and her family who said, just come. It's okay. We can make this work.
Yeah.
And and then all of my amazing friends in Australia. I was only supposed to be in Australia, like, first it was going to be 2 weeks, then it was going to be 6 weeks, and then it ended up being 3 months. Because I just got this amazing group of people. Lauren Elise Daniels. When I arrived in Australia, there was a
Yeah.
cyclone, the first in 50 years.
Oh my god. As if that's not enough to make you, reconsider all of your life choices up to that point.
They were like, and Zachary Ashford, who had put me up in this amazing hotel, and we had to evacuate me out of the hotel because it was in like the, it
Oh
was
my
going to be
god.
flooded, and I was just like,
Jeez.
oh my gosh. My
And I
friend
bet
Robin,
you didn't bring your ruby slippers with you, did you?
I did not, but I really, I genuinely feel like Australia is the home I never had, and
Yeah.
I don't know that I will stay here forever, but I do feel like, I feel like digital nomad is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I love moving new places and
Yeah.
learning, and I get to work from the road, and I get to make new friends and learn new things. And the other really cool thing about us, Australia, is that in order to travel, you have to actually leave the continent.
Hmm.
So people in Australia are very well traveled. And the other thing that I loved about Australia, I asked a friend, I said,
Yeah.
can you tell me what it is that makes defines Australia for you? What does it mean to you to be Australian? He said, well,
That's
the
a
most
good
important
question.
thing is that we are multicultural. And I
Hmm.
said, okay. He said, no, no. He said, when you in the United States, he said, you believe in the great melting pot. Everybody is supposed to come in, you all get dumped in the same pot, and now you're Americans.
Yeah.
And he said, but in Australia, we welcome everyone. And not only do we allow their cultures, we celebrate their cultures. And we love the fact that there are people from all over the world that have made this their home. And yes, they're still Australians, but they're
Yeah.
also every place that they came from. And to me, that was just a magical feeling. You felt like you were allowed to be here, no
Yeah,
matter where you
there's no, need to assimilate or anything. You could be yourself, and that is the culture, it sounds
were.
like.
And it makes for amazing food too. Oh my God. Just all the food is
Right.
amazing. Although
Now,
Australia is short on ice cream, there's a lot of gelato, but it's short on ice cream. So
well, you might just have to change that. Maybe, get them to
my
get with
my
the
first
program already.
my first date in Australia was with a guy who had owned an ice cream parlor at one point. So
Oh, that's perfect. You read that in the profile, and it's like, done.
yeah,
When are we
done. We have
meeting?
to go out.
It's yeah, that's awesome because well, at least at that point, even if it's a crappy date, you'll still have your ice cream.
It's it. Totally true.
Yeah, that was
So,
awesome. Now, you mentioned before about the whole learning experience of everything, and it made me want to ask you. So, and I'm really curious about your answer to your response to this. But along the way, like obviously, there's going to be some days that are just more challenging than others. Maybe some days that, some of the bad stuff might whisper in your ear, other days it might yell at you. The way that you started with managing all that to how you're managing that now, did you have to learn a lot of new skills along the way to do that? Or do you think those skills are maybe already there and just out of practice?
oh no, I absolutely had to learn a lot of new techniques.
Yeah.
I had to, and I even had to, even as I would learn them, I would have to remind myself about them. I had one of the things that I don't think enough people talk about is one of the things that really, really helped me was getting on the right meds. I got on an antidepressant about 5 days after I found out about the divorce, and go figure, I was able to stop crying,
Uh,
and it didn't change. It didn't change me into somebody that it didn't change me into a zombie. It didn't. I just felt like I could be closer to myself, like
yeah.
and make those things go away. And I have somebody that I meet with on a regular basis to manage my medication, to give me options to see how things are going. And I had to do a second medication when I was after I wrecked my car, totaled my car. But I'm now able to, and I had to develop, thanks to therapy and just working out a system that worked for me, a way to kind of handle as I started to spin. And I rarely spin anymore. It has to be super, super extreme. And I'm now off of the second medication and I'm on my way to getting rid of the first one because
Good
I
for
feel
you.
like I've internalized those techniques and I now have behavioral uh, things that I can do that will
Yeah.
help that to get me over those bits. And a lot of it has to do with just translating. It
Yeah.
used to really, it used to freak me out every time I would see pictures of them on my Facebook feed because people would go to conventions and they wouldn't tag everybody, and then all of a sudden they're there because
Right. You just
we're all
can't avoid
locked.
it all the time. Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it would just break my heart. And I trained myself to just say, "Oh," and just keep spinning, just keep scrolling. Like
Yeah.
I used to train myself. I just trained myself to give myself a specific response, and that's because I. I by doing that, it it gave me the opportunity to just notice it and move on.
Yeah.
And that also goes back to "Let Them" by Mel Robbins. One of the things that she talks about is if you have a emotion, the chemical fire that causes that emotion is only going to last about 90 seconds. So
Mm.
you have to allow yourself to acknowledge and feel that emotion for 90 seconds and don't do anything. Don't cry, don't lash out, don't do anything. Just feel that emotion for 90 seconds. And when you can do that, like it's like half of the chemical is gone within 90 seconds,
Yeah.
something like that. And then you react in a much milder way. And you're
Mm.
choosing how to react. You're not letting the chemicals tell you how to react. And that has helped a lot. And
Yeah.
so me just saying, I'm training myself to notice it and let it go, right?
Yeah.
To just say, oh, and move on. And, um,
Yeah.
so it's, and developing, I had a hierarchy list, if I started feeling bad, I would text somebody. First, I would try to first I would try to distract myself. If that didn't
Sure.
work, then I would text a friend. If that didn't work, I'd text a different friend. If that didn't work, I would call somebody. If that person didn't work, I would uh, call somebody else. And if that didn't work, I would go to bed. And it didn't matter if it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon
Sure.
because ultimately sleep would make it better. And so I just, but I've had so many amazing friends who have just reached out at all the right times when they said, "Oh, I feel like you're a little bit off today." And I'm like, "Oh, yes." And,
Maybe.
maybe. And
Yeah.
I had one friend, one of the most recent ones, and she's just like, "Okay, so let's make a list. What are you going to do first?" "I'm going to drink some water." "Yes, you're going to drink some water." "Now what are you going to do?" "Eat some food." "Yes, you're going to eat some food." "And now what are you going to do?" "Going to go to bed." "Yes, you're going to go to bed." "And what are you going to do in the morning?" "Take a shower." And like we made the list because I was, like so that when I got up in the morning, I
Yeah.
actually that list, I felt better, but having that list of, okay, now I'm going to do this, then I'm going to change my plane reservations, then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do, so I had a list and my mind stopped spinning. And that
Well, it's
to have
almost
spent,
like you're like turning an emotional response into a more of like a cognitive thing, or change that
yes,
emotional response into a cognitive response.
yes. And meditation's been helpful. I mean, lots and lots of different things. And
Yeah.
I think when I first started traveling, I felt like I think now maybe I was, in retrospect, I was trying to just kind of get away from everything, just trying to
Yeah.
just travel and get as far away from everything as I could. And And when you're on the road, everything's just da, 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 so you don't have time to think.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
now I know, with the 3 months that I spent in New Zealand and then my time in Australia, when I came to Australia, I realized that it probably was a coping mechanism when I first started,
Yeah.
but now it is just absolutely who I am. It is my life. I love this. I thrive in 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 travel. I am so inspired when I travel. The things that I see things in totally different ways. I see the light differently. I see things as I don't know. I mean, I just finished yesterday. I was over at my friend Kat's house, and my friend Karen had lent me her vintage button collection, and I'm like, I know what to do with this. And I ended up making the coolest. I think it's cool. A skull collage made out of vintage buttons,
Oh, that's neat.
and it's just like so. It's so cool. I can't wait to show it. But
Yeah.
it's just like, but just, there's just like there's inspiration in all the different places for me, and people when they talk about things to me, and I see things from different perspectives, and
Yeah.
I also want to say that talking here in Australia to people, there is not a negative attitude towards Americans in general. And there's more of sympathy.
Yeah.
And I think that that was a big relief too, because, you feel like, but I also understand now why people think that Americans are very brash, because I have found myself, I'm like, I am a little bit, I'm a little bit extra, even compared to Australians sometimes,
Yeah.
because it's just, and I feel like my accent is harsh, um, compared
Mm.
to Australia, New Zealand,
Yeah.
and it's very, it lets you see your place in the bigger world, but
Yeah.
it's been magical, absolutely.
Really sounds like it.
It's, people will talk about Melbourne as having, there's challenges and safety
Yeah.
issues, uh, and I was walking with a friend, and I said, I just feel very safe here. And he was like, oh, well, you don't know. There's this, this, and this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but here's what I feel about Melbourne. I feel like if somebody came up and tried to steal my purse, there would be a bunch of people who would jump in and kick his ass. Like,
Yeah.
they would just be like, they would help.
Yeah.
As my travels have progressed in the Southern Hemisphere, my knees gotten worse and worse, and random people on the street would help me to make sure that I could get up on a curb or whatever.
That's so
Just
cool.
random people. Or, do you need help? Is that okay? You okay? And or, over here's a seat. People would give up their seats and things. It was just really nice. I felt like um, one of the first things that I heard on when I was in Canberra, the first time,
Yeah.
this is actually the second time I was in Canberra during this trip. And the first time was the prime minister saying, we take care of each other. To hear a leader say, our job is that we take care of each other.
That is
And,
amazing.
and in New Zealand, I tripped and fell one time. And so I had to go to the urgent care, and to make sure that I hadn't broken anything. And they took me in. And I said, how much do I owe you? And she said, honey, when you get hurt on our soil, we will take care of you. And it cost me a grand total of $60 to be seen at the urgent care, x-rays, and medication to help with the pain.
Wow. And doesn't that blow your mind that something like that would blow your mind, where it just seems just so fundamentally human that that should be such a basic thing that it
Yeah,
goes without saying, but to actually hear somebody have to say that, because far too often it doesn't go without saying because it just doesn't go on at all, is like
right.
that's just mind blowing.
It's just amazing. And
Yeah.
like I said, in New Zealand, in Australia, it's just, and it gives me hope. It gives me hope knowing that there are good and wonderful people all over the world.
Yeah.
And I think when you grow up in America and you think, oh, we are the good guys, right? That's what you're
Yeah.
raised to believe. Part of the like that, the whole concept of the melting pot was such, like, I was like, this is what we were taught in cartoons as a kid, all
Yeah.
this rocket stuff. Like I felt like, but to know that there are people who really internalize that, and that even though that's not necessarily the perception that isolated Americans have of them.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
it's
and I think, I mean, even again in Canada in particular, in the city that I'm in, I'm in Kitchener, Ontario, for anybody that knows where that is, and it's such a multicultural, diverse place that you would think it's because we embrace the differences, we embrace the unique, cultures of people, and I wish I could say that that's true, but it's just not. Like there are so many incredible people here, and I pride myself in being one of those people that is very open minded. I mean, I work at a long term care place out here in the day job, and that's an environment that really has embraced the multicultural, where it's celebrated every different culture event that happens. We're celebrating with others, decorations that go up. It's educational things go up, and it's incredible. But unfortunately, it does seem, back to the whole how, all the more important to find your people, to find the people that feel that way, because unfortunately, there's just not. There's still a lot of, we have a long way to go, and there's so much, prejudice for various cultures out here still, etc., that it's, uh, frankly, it's embarrassing because, like, why? It doesn't have to be that way. So, that sounds amazing that you found that experience in Australia where you just, and through the people that as well, like, that's just the way that people should be living. And I'm so glad that that has been your experience.
it's uh it's just very energizing. And it's this entire experience. I mean, the feeling that to go from feeling like you've hit the worst bottom you could possibly imagine to uh, doing things you had never even dreamed of doing is wonderful. And thinking that there are new things, to feel like I can do whatever I want to do, and have a great time doing it, and I don't
Right.
have to plan it all. I can
Yeah.
just go. And it's been wonderful. I need to say, somebody else that I forgot when I was listing my list was
Sure.
my amazing friend, Colleen Finn. She's an artist in Atlanta, and she was the first person to house me after I moved out of the house. And
Oh,
she's wonderful. And yeah, so, and me and Chaos, she gave both of us a space to stay at first. So
that's
uh,
great, man.
but
And
yeah, so many. Like I said, I know I would forget a whole bunch of people, and I know there's even more. So
that's okay. I'm sure that those people watching that will forgive you. But they just might make you stay at their house for a couple more days. They'll
I
take you on for a little bit longer.
that's
And when you go back to the States, back to Atlanta, Lynn, I guess, well, you're having a bit of uh, a pit stop, an intermission between Australia and back to Atlanta by staying in New Zealand for a little bit. Uh, are you think you kind of mentioned before that you're going to plan, obviously, once you recover. I'm sure you're not going to roll over in your post-op bed and then just run out the door. Or
it's
maybe you
probably
will.
six.
Okay.
It's probably 6 months. It could be
And
a
you're
year.
planning on going back to Australia?
Yes, that's my hope.
Yeah.
Um, it's it could take as long as a year, depending on if they can do both knees at the same time because they're both injured.
Right.
Or if they'll just do one, and then maybe I come back a year later and do the second one. That's not as bad. I don't know. So I will find all of that out in June. And but yeah, I mean, I've still got a year and a half on my passport, my visa for Australia, so I can go back
Oh,
without any
good.
challenge.
Good.
And then just see where it goes from there, because I'm just having the best time meeting new folks and just everything, learning about. I feel like I walk out the door and the world is just pouring in inspiration. And I when you go from a year and a half of feeling like I will never be able to create the way I used to.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I even did during that year and a half where I was so tired, I got to do my first Stephen King art. And I got to do interior art for a book about the 50th anniversary of Carrie. So I actually have licensed Carrie art. And
That's incredible.
you would think you would think that that in itself could have inspired me, and it was just as difficult as every other project, maybe even more. Eh,
Wow. I mean, of
incre-
course, I mean, like we kind of alluded to before, perspective is everything. And it's really crappy that I'm guessing that you were at such a spot at that time where, I know if it was me, if somebody said not that they would want me, unless they need a really crappy stick man on their cover, say, hey, we got this new, special edition carry, can you write us a lousy stick man for it? I'd be over the moon for that. But I'm sure when you're in that spot, the perspective changes everything. And it's like, oh my God, this is such a huge responsibility. What if I screw it up?
I-
And whatever else, your brain
yes,
is lying to you and feeding your thoughts at that
yes.
time.
I did my third Weird Tales cover during that time. I did uh, I did art for the novelization of Happy Birthday to Me, which was a huge, huge thing for me. Um, I did art for the board game for the Horror Writers Association,
Okay.
Sudden Acts of Horror. I had all these amazing, amazing projects, and it was just so hard. And now I just sit down and it works. And I don't know how it changed. I think it was so many of those pieces and parts, but I am so grateful for it, because I felt I felt like it might never, like this was how I was going to have to be for the rest of my life. And it's amazing. And now to see that I just walk through life and I see, oh, I can make this. And then I go and do it, you know, is is wonderful. It's just been, the Stephen King art was due 3 days after my brother died.
Oh man.
And the week before he had been in hospice. So and I had saved that time to finish the project because I was staying with friends that were really good, and I knew I could just hunker down and work. And I was like, that's it. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Jeez.
And, but when I come back to the United States, I'm so excited because my contributor
Yeah.
copies are going to be waiting for me in the United States. I can't wait to
Oh,
see
that's
it.
good. And who's the publisher for that?
That's Levidian, and they are
Okay.
amazing. And um, it was just, they sent my signature sheets to New Zealand. So I had to sign my art, and they sent my signature sheets to New Zealand, and then I shipped them back. And I was like, wow, you guys really do keep
That's
everybody going.
incredible.
There we go.
I know that's incredible. Like what a huge commitment. I mean, that must have cost them almost as much as what it cost them to mail to Canada.
They were absolutely determined to just make
Yeah.
an amazing, amazing book. There's some fantastic artists, and then Francois Valancourt did the cover, and he's like my favorite
Yeah,
artist.
he's quite brilliant as well. And
Yeah.
have you found that all the experiences that you've had and the new, joy that you found for life, again, back to the whole perspective thing, of course, like you've, mentioned earlier how all of a sudden you're literally and figuratively seeing things in such a new light, and you can appreciate, the reflections of things, the colors of various things, the sounds of things, I'm sure. And of course, as an artist, living the best life out there, do you find that has, other than just the pure joy that you're getting out of it again, do you find that that's changed much of your art or the
Oh, yes.
ideas or the style or
Well, I've been working on a lot of traditional art, and I've been working my way through a lot of different kinds of mediums and techniques. And like I said, I've always struggled with watercolors, and watercolors have kind of clicked for me in a way, and I discovered gouache, ballpoint pen actually,
Huh.
and but I also see things, and I see myself. My button collage that I did was it was huge. There'll be a picture of it
Yeah.
later, but it was this huge, this button collage, and I was like, oh, I want to work on big things now, and see what does that do, and also I have a very good friend who has always told me that she likes the art that I do that takes the least time.
Huh.
And I never understood that. And now I realize that it's about trusting my heart and my hands
Yeah.
to make the art, and
Hmm.
not sitting here and saying, is this good enough? Is that good enough? Is that
Gotcha.
the
That's
right thing?
okay.
Should I do it
Huh.
this way? And just trusting myself to move forward with it. And that has been huge for me.
Yeah.
And all of my clients, I also shout out to every single one of my clients, who there isn't a single one of them that hasn't been patient and kind and understanding. And I thought, oh my gosh, why? I thought when I went to New Zealand, I took 3 months off, and I thought, this is going to tank my career. I'm going to come back, and I'm not going to have a career, because people still have books to put out. I have amazing regular clients, and they still need their work. And I
Sure.
was behind on things, and I had to just stop some things. And I thought, they're all going to hate me, and I'm never going to have work anymore, because they're just moved on. Not a single one did that. Not a single one.
Good.
And they were so kind and understanding. And I just knew, because I knew that if I did not take that break, to stop running, to just sit and
Right.
be with myself and be with what was going on, if I didn't take that time off, I wasn't going to have a career anyhow. I mean, that's how bad things were. I was just, and it's
Yeah.
totally different. And when I put my shingle back out, people had just been waiting, and I got I've gotten 2 10-book commissions. Uh,
Holy crap.
lovely series work, which I love,
Wow, that's amazing.
and
Wow.
I just, yeah, I don't know. It's just very it was just so rewarding, and everybody was so kind and understanding and patient and
Good.
supportive, and they didn't make me feel like I was a flake, because I felt like I was a flake for a really long time. And
Yeah.
because part of what I love about doing art the way I do is that I'm kind of like right in the middle between left brain and right brain. And that means
Okay.
that I also have a good business sense as well as strong art skills. And
Right.
when your business sense goes out the door because your brain doesn't function, it's like, and then the art stuff goes like, it's hard. And but
Yeah.
everybody got it. They were just all really good, and nobody needed to know. Nobody nobody needed to know any kind of super detailed account of what was going on.
Of course. Yeah.
They just knew that I needed some grace, and
Yeah.
everybody gave it to me more than I could ever imagine. I mean, I have the most amazing friends. I just have the most amazing friends, and
Good.
I'm so
Well,
grateful.
you're a yeah, I'm sure that I really hope that you've realized this as well, but a big reason that you have all these amazing friends is because you are also an amazing friend as well. So
Yeah.
people think, hey, if we've got to give you a little bit of extra grace and a little bit of extra patience to keep you in our life, you're good. We got your back.
It's just astounding. It's just astounding to me,
Yeah.
and I would have never. It's definitely allowed everything that's happened. These travels, it's helped me really see the bigger picture in a way, in a much more the bigger picture, but also a much smaller picture too. To be able to interact with people on such an intimate level when they allow you into their lives like that
Right.
is just amazing. And I've learned so much, and I've experienced so much, and so I would not have been able to Oh, sorry, I've got a doggy here who just
Oh,
decided he
oh,
wants
okay.
love. He's
That's right. You met my cat.
I'm here at Aaron Dry's place, and I've got Dante and Baxter. So Dante
Right.
is giant black farm dog, and Baxter is a King Charles Spaniel,
Oh
and
wow. Okay.
of course, the tiny little spaniel runs the roof,
Oh, of
and
course.
yeah,
He's got to bark the
they're
loudest.
yes, of course, and but yeah, it's I forgot what I was saying now, distracted by the dogs, but
Y-
they're it's just been a phenomenal ride, and so grateful for all the people that have helped me through all of it, and
Yeah.
um, it's yes, Dante, and yes, Baxter, hi, yes, now you're famous, yes. Um, you can also start to see the mountains behind me now. Just start to clear out. The fog started to clear out a little
Yeah,
bit.
I know. You know, it's funny because as we were talking, I was like, I don't know if I hope I didn't come across doing this, but I'm kind of squinting. I'm doing this because I'm like, why are all the colors changing in the back? Is that me? But that's why. So thank you for explaining that. It's not. I don't need to go get my eyes checked because of that.
It's beautiful, and here it's autumn. It's late autumn, so it's cold. Like there's in Melbourne, there was frost on the ground the other day,
Ooh.
and it's it is definitely it's definitely cold. And I was not originally planning on being here 3 months. I was planning to be there 6 months, so I would have been the end of summer. So I didn't have winter clothes. I didn't even have socks,
Oh, geez.
and so yeah, it's been very. That's what op shops are for. That's a version of thrift shops here.
Oh, okay. Op
Opportunity.
shop. Interesting.
Yeah, and so I got myself some thrift shop clothes, and I just keep on going, you know. But it is I didn't
Yeah.
have a good winter coat or anything until like 2 days ago.
It
Now I'm
reminds me of
wearing.
that scene. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a bit of a Canadian classic because of course John Candy, but it's the apparently they're making a sequel. The Jamaican bobsled team,
Yes.
where there's a scene, of course, where they're all from Jamaica, so they use the hot weather, and then they go out to the wherever they were. I want to say it was in the States, but it might have been France or something or Europe. It was cold anyway, so of course they're all shivering, and it probably wasn't that cold by all accounts, and they end up going into a big a sports store, and they all come out with these big huge honking parkas, and immediately not messing around. So no,
It's
it's beautiful out there, and I can see, is that the sun I see in the background as well, or is that a reflection of a light?
let's see here.
Or is it these beautiful red colors that I'm seeing, and right above that I'm seeing a bit of a light
Nope,
that might be
that's just it's the rain on the windows being reflected.
Gotcha, okay. And there's been a few times now where I've seen a bird. Actually, one of them came flying by, and he probably stopped himself just short when he realized that's a window that's gonna stop me. But it was
Oh my
almost
god,
like he kinda did like a little flash thing, like a
I
you
didn't
know,
even notice
deer
him.
in the
Oh my
park.
gosh.
Yeah, it
It,
happened a little while ago. It was really cool.
and right down the street, there's a little cul-de-sac, and you go up to the little conservation area over this cul-de-sac, and there are, I don't know, 50 kangaroos. Just
Well, you showed that one, video, and I'm like, "Oh, that looks just amazing." That looks
it's incredible, and they're very they feel like they're like deer on steroids. So like when they're grazing, they look like deer until they look up, and then you're like, oh, don't mess with that one.
Oh, they're intimidating. I remember I got last year there's a very large zoo in Toronto, and you go to their they've got whole sections on continents, and I went to the section with Australia, and they had, of course, kangaroos there, and there are some people that were in there. I guess if you buy a ticket, or I don't know, it's your last will and testament, the last thing you wanna do, you can go out and see these kangaroos, and I'm thinking to myself, like, there has to be a sense of danger in these people because just on having a fence on the side, looking at these kangaroos, I mean, talk about being on stars. These things are they're muscular, and they look at you like they know that if you step over here, like you're you're out of your realm. You are not going to go back in one piece. If you're only going to go back on the other side of the fence if they decide to let you back on the other side of the fence. Like they just seem to have this intensity about them that was a little bit intimidating.
Well, in Brisbane, when I went to the koala sanctuary, there was also a giant area where you could go in with the kangaroos and pet the kangaroos and feed them.
That's and you
And
would assume they were well handled from birth and often.
yes, but there would be like wombats, which are smaller, and then there would be grays, which were a little bit bigger, and then you'd have the big reds, and the big reds were the ones that were like, whoa.
Yeah.
And they looked like deer that just got back from the gym. and But they were so well fed that they practically didn't even want the food. And
Yeah.
but you just go right up and pet them, and oh, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing about Australia, isn't it? Is that there's the look and there's the reality. I mean, I know kangaroos are they're so cute, they're so beautiful, but I've heard they could like rip you apart if they really wanted to, and that they go for the tender spots if they don't like you.
Well, they they leave as quickly as they can. They're
Okay.
pretty. They don't, unless you're trying to mess with them. And so, like, you'll see videos where, the kangaroos are all really angry and violent. And usually it's because somebody sent their dog after the kangaroo and
Got
harassed them until they couldn't run away anymore,
yeah.
And
Basically, they
so,
had it coming. They earned it.
well, it's just beautiful here. New Zealand was interesting because there are no like small critters really.
Huh.
Like there's birds, and I think hedgehogs maybe, but
Okay.
New Zealand is very protective of their ecosystem. And
Yeah.
where Australia is like, yeah, we have wild camels, because they got brought and left behind, and
Wow.
um, so they've
That's
had a lot of different animals, and then all the marsupials,
yeah.
but it's just been uh, lovely to get to see all of that, and to enjoy all the basic things that people take for granted in Australia or New Zealand. Like, I learned how to eat Vegemite right, because it's
There's a
very
wrong way to eat Vegemite?
most of the ways to eat Vegemite are wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've heard the best way to eat Vegemite is to not eat Vegemite.
Yes. But toast, just the butter, and then just the tiniest little bit, just the tiniest little scraping of Vegemite, because it's very strong. It tastes
Yeah,
almost like a salty bouillon, right? And then
okay.
cheese on top, and it's so good that way.
Huh. And what exactly is in Vegemite? Because I've heard people describe the way it tastes, but not why it tastes that way.
I don't know. I don't remember. I
It's like
think it's
spam,
yeast
isn't it?
based. It's
It's like,
and
we
then
don't talk about what's in spam.
and in New Zealand it's Marmite, and
Okay.
it's kind of a milder version of Vegemite, but it is a thing that Australians and Kiwis will battle over which one is right, which was kind of
Huh.
interesting.
Yeah.
I hate to say this because I do intend on being an Australian at some point, but I kind of like Marmite better. It was just a little bit
Blasphemy.
milder, a little bit more palatable. I don't know. It was
Yeah.
good. And then,
Uh,
the honey in New Zealand was incredible. The Manuka honey, which is like has this amazing healing properties. Just everything is so
Manuka
good.
honey. I've never heard of Manuka honey before.
Yeah, it's
Huh.
yeah. There was just in lamb. I'd never really eaten a lot of lamb, and lamb
Yeah.
is like a staple in New Zealand and in Australia. And I fell in love with lamb. And
Huh.
but that's me. When I travel, I see something new, and I learn enough, and I enjoy it, and I'm like, oh, now I'm in love with this.
Yeah.
Now I'm in love with
Yeah.
lamb. Or there's a coffee in Melbourne called the Magic, which is super strong and
Oh,
super.
yeah.
But you add you add some sugar and then a little bit of, it's like a little bit of milk, and it's like, it reminds me of Cuban coffee from back home in Tampa. I love
Okay.
Cuban coffee, and I was like, this is the perfect coffee, but it's also like super strong and awesome.
Oh,
Um,
I love strong coffee, especially if I yeah, watched your one post that you did, and it was a coffee flight where you had
oh my
the
God,
3
yes.
different variations, and I'm like, "Oh my god," like, I feel like I'm, like, not going to blink for a while here, like, it's like, that coffee just looked incredible. And they had the little pictures too, it wasn't that they just threw a bunch of coffee in a cup and slapped it on the table, like, they actually took their time with it, and they were each one
Right.
were these specialty coffees.
It was fantastic, and there's just I'm also a combo flight girl. Like anything I can get a flight or a combo of, I'm good, because
Yeah.
I love to try all the things. So
Exactly, yeah, it's like an all you can, a buffet where I mean, the point is to go and pick out your favorite things and have as much of that as you can, it's so you have a little bit of everything, and then you know what your favorite things are so you can go back.
it's just been wonderful, and there's just so many things that will miss from my travels, but there's also a lot of things that I will bring back in terms of things that I'll enjoy, and will remind me of my travels. So
Yeah, and the book that you said that you're writing, is that are you gonna have a lot of the experiences of your travels in that book, or is it gonna be more about the book more about the result of those experiences, or a little bit of both?
it's going to be a lot about using certain experiences as the things that I learned from those experiences.
Okay.
And so there will be tales about different things that I've gone through and things that I've enjoyed, and some of them put together. Like, there's got to be an entire ice cream section. I mean, there's just got to be a
Yes.
period. There's got to be an ice cream section, and but to be able to do that, to be able to talk about, to use them as illustrations for the things that I've learned from some of them. I mean, I've had, yeah, I mean, there's just too much, and I think a lot of people also have these life-changing experiences that they forget to slow down long enough to notice, to let them
Mm,
actually impact them. And so I want to be able to talk
yeah.
about that a lot in the book, about how to create your own significances that will help you remember to be the person you want to be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, yeah.
Yeah. And is it as easy to write out as you thought it would be, or is it as difficult as you thought it would be? Because like you said, a lot of people do go through those experiences absolutely. And the last thing they want to do oftentimes is to dwell on those experiences. Maybe afraid of going backwards or being stuck in those experiences because they're just enjoying them so much. And by comparison of you know, what they had to go through to maybe get to those experiences. They want to say there's as long as possible, but here you are, of course, renumerating about all those experiences that you've gone through, and I'm guessing some of the good, the bad, and the good that came out of the bad
Yeah.
is how was that? That would just be that'd be a weird experience to write something like that, like such a journey.
It's it is well, I started out when I first was going to write a book, it was going to be about my travels, and it was going to be more of a travelogue kind of thing.
Sure.
And then I started having too many amazing adventures that it was like, that's really not a focus for a book. It's just like my life now. That's not really a book.
Yeah.
And so when I started thinking about the kinds of stories that people connected with most when I talked to them, when I would visit people,
Yeah.
and I realized that there was that common thread between them all. And so it's easier to write it now, than I wished I had. Part of me wishes that I had started writing it while I was going through everything, and I just know that I wasn't capable of doing that then. I
Sure,
really
just one
was.
extra task that you'd have to be responsible for.
And I don't think I was able to actually see them realistically, to have enough distance behind them to see the significance of certain things.
Right.
And yeah, so I just think that now is the right time, and there's enough time, there's enough space in my brain, and there's a great need to be able to share what the world has to offer. The world is not this tiny postage stamp that you were born on. You know,
No.
it is brilliant and gorgeous and messy and exciting and magical, and I want to be able to share that with people too. And I know that I did not have the confidence. Hello, I guess we're getting a giant black.
Good,
Hello.
there he is.
He jumped up on the chair and then jumped up on my lap. Hello. Hello, Dante.
He's like,
Oh
look
my
at human. Don't talk to that person. I'm the one that loves you the most. Talk to me.
yeah. Um, but to be able to share those things in a way that I did not have the confidence when I think people have always thought that I had more confidence than I did. And I was super insecure growing up and in my 20s and all through my life, really. And I just learned to kind of do stuff regardless.
Sure.
But I think that now I've figured out a way to do things and not be terrified while I'm doing them. So I still do things that would make me nervous or anxious, but
Yeah.
I just do them without that side effect now, you know? So I think that's important because sometimes you need to be able to see a practical example of somebody doing something similar enough, and so that you can do the thing that speaks to your heart, that means a lot to you, you know. And I think
Yeah.
that's so important.
Yeah.
We get bogged down. I was astounded at how easy it was to get through 26 years worth of stuff and boil it down into a 10 by 10 storage unit. When the world
That's gotta be
was
sobering.
that this is all I've got left. I've got 6 weeks. I got to do this. You just, you realize that a lot of the things that you put great value on didn't mean as much as you needed as you thought they did when you had to put it into a 10 by 10 storage unit,
Right.
and that you weren't going to see it for a long time. So each time I've traveled, whenever I come back to my storage unit, I get rid of more and more stuff. And when I was in Australia, I only had a backpack. And that's what I traveled for 3 months.
I know it's always been fascinating to me where I work in the long-term care is knowing that, kind of to your point, is that the things that I see in our residences rooms are the most important things to that person because that room ultimately had to become their backpack.
Right.
And a lot of them, I mean, it's very expensive to stay at least in the long-term care place that I am. So a lot of them came from homes that were full of items of things that
Right.
they were forced to completely pare down and only take with them. It's almost like running out of a house that's on fire, and except having more thought put in it, obviously. They could, they only took the things that were the most meaningful to them. So it's like you're seeing everything that's the most meaningful things to them. And I'm also thinking, you probably have heard of this before, and I'm going to screw it up, but there is a sort of what do you call that? Like not feng shui, but it's like a death cleaning
Yes.
where
Yes.
you live as if
We,
you can go any day so that you only have just the most important things. So that's, somebody else isn't going to have to go through all the things that maybe didn't really mean that much to you in the first place. And it's,
When I came to New Zealand, I had one checked bag, and one carry-on. And then I bought another suitcase. I bought a backpack, and that's what I brought to Australia. When I come back to Australia, I'm just coming with one carry-on. That's it.
Wow.
I'm like, that's it. That's all I want. And I've learned so much about, it used to stupidest things. What if I don't have the right shoes? What if my feet start hurting because I don't have the right shoes? Well, guess what? My feet started hurting and I didn't have the right shoes. So I went and I bought a pair and I got over it, man. And why did I need to even worry about it? It's like, no, I really needed, I brought nice
Yeah.
dress sandals. I didn't bring bummy dress sandals that I could walk on the beach with. So I bought
Yeah.
some bummy beach sandals and I was done with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my god.
and
I'm
so,
so relating to this. Like, I know when I went to the States last time even though I went there a few times before, it's always around the same time of year, so I'm dealing with the same kind of weather, but I'm an idiot and an overthinker, and I shouldn't call myself an idiot because really I think I've got great intentions of what I think I might need.
yes,
So I
right.
bring freaking everything. I got all these things. I had a winter coat. It was 24 degrees out there. So I didn't need that. And so many other things that I didn't need. The only thing I really needed is extra space for more books to bring back with me. But that's yeah, I mean it's so fascinating, like you said, about perspective and that and being almost too caught up in yourself in a moment, thinking that what trying to plan for things that may or may not happen, as opposed to just simply letting go, accepting the fact that whatever happens it's probably going to be okay, and you can probably handle it, almost no matter what. So
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. Things like medications were weird. Like, what is ibuprofen in Australia? I don't know. Like, or
yeah,
what about this? Or if I have this? What do you call that here? And what do you use instead? And certain things were. The one thing I do regret not packing, only one thing, Neosporin, because Neosporin is a prescription only in Australia, and
sure.
so and I'm like, I am so klutzy that get scratched and bumped all the time, and I'm like, I put some
Yeah,
Neosporin on it, and it's good the next day. So I really miss
yeah.
that, but that's it. That's the only thing
Although
I'm
I
going
have
back.
heard, and don't quote me on this, because God forbid something happens and you need to lose a limb, you'll be like, that I never should listen to him. But I have heard that maybe there's a reason for that, and life was like, you don't need the Neosporin, go to Australia, it's fine. Because I have heard that there's been studies apparently that Neosporin it can actually cause more infections or make things take longer to heal. Because even though
Really
it does have some healing properties, it also forces that area to stay moist, which can attract other bacteria and or at least slow down the healing process.
interesting. There's so much, and
Yeah.
but there's also great finds. Like with my knees, Voltaren is great for my knees, and
Oh,
in
yeah.
Australia they have 12-hour Voltaren, which is like magic because you don't have to
Wow.
like put it on every 4 hours. And
That
they
would be
also have
amazing.
Voltaren pills that are like amazing for your backaches and things. Oh my gosh, there's just all kinds of things like that. But
Can
I've
you throw
learned,
some through the screen at me now? Because that would be
right?
fantastic.
It's incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
it's and to just learn all of these new things and not be afraid of what could happen.
yeah.
Just working through it. I got conjunctivitis when I got to Australia. I have no idea what I did to get conjunctivitis. I must have touched a rail or something,
And so
and
what
then I
is
was
say that again?
conjunctivitis. It's like pink eye, pink eye.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay.
it makes your eyes red and watery and gooey.
Yeah.
And so it's usually if you're around kids, you get it because they
R
touch everything.
yeah, my
And
kids had it before, yeah.
but I was like, oh my gosh, I would have had to go in the United States. I would have had gone to a doctor to get it fixed.
Yeah.
And in Australia, you go to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist will talk to you and see and take a look at you and be like, yep, here you go. And it's like super cheap. It was like $15 or something
That's good, and
because
that's
the
so
pharmacist
straightforward.
there. Yeah, the pharmacists, their goal is to get the pharmacists to handle a lot of the stupid stuff. And so they're very, very helpful whenever you need anything. And they understand all the, I mean, they're just, it's lovely. You don't have to wait for hours at a doctor's office to go just to get, really, all I need is the eye drops, man, you know?
Right?
And,
Well,
uh,
yeah, you're preaching to the choir there because, I mean, everybody is like, "Oh, it's so great up in Canada, your healthcare is free." And it's like, yeah, I mean, we do get inclusive healthcare, which is fantastic, but the one thing that sucks is that, of course, education, health is always the first things that take a hit on finances. The wait time is ridiculous, and I would love it if we had that more of that option where you can just simply go to the pharmacist, especially when it comes to things that you're taking, an ointment or a pill or something chemical like that. The pharmacy's gonna know more anyways. Even today, actually, I'm on a new medication, and I was chatting with my pharmacist about dosages, and so then by the time I actually talked to my doctor who got the facts from the pharmacist, I was kind of guiding my doctor on what to do based on what the pharmacist told me. And of course, the doctor, did his own research on the at the time and confirmed, yeah, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying is right. I'm like, yeah, it's the pharmacist told me. So it's like, couldn't I have just gone to the pharmacist straight up and not had
right.
you part of this picture just to expedite things, make it simpler?
It's, yeah, it's really interesting to see how different countries handle things. And
Yeah.
a lot of people still do have private insurance as well, even when they have the public option, because if there is something that is time sensitive and they want to be further along on the schedule, they can handle it privately. And that's both in
Right.
New Zealand and Australia. So, so there is a downside to it, but people, they just seem to care a lot more about the care. And also, New Zealand and Australia are non-tipping cultures. So you don't
That's
have to,
fascinating.
yeah. And so it's like everything costs 20% less to begin with. And because
Yeah.
they don't, it's just they pay their people enough that they don't need tips. And so everybody treats you well, everybody helps each other, like at restaurants, they'll different servers will help each other just so that everybody gets good care. And they just
Yeah.
try to make the jobs easier. It's lovely.
That
Um,
sounds amazing. I mean, you probably get such better, more authentic interactions with people as
yeah.
well, even going to a restaurant. I mean, out here, you can't help but think it's like, you're not that nice. You don't like me that much. You would never do that, but you just want me to dig deeper into my pockets. Like, come on now. I mean, sometimes they are really that nice. I don't want to go around that. I've got this, all out cynicism on everybody, but I'm pretty sure that not every smile was authentic and that the all the servers didn't like me that much. I'm not that funny. So it's yeah, that blows my mind to have the whole tipping thing just taken out. I mean, I
It's
I can't
crazy. And
imagine.
also, it's just things are just it's just not it's just very comfortable. Your interactions with people are much more comfortable, and
Yeah.
you know exactly the price. Oh, sorry, honey. What happened? Okay. I scritched him and I must have hit a spot. You okay?
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, now he's here. He's like, yes, 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 you're cool.
Now
Did
you
I hit
must
a
love me more.
specific? Yes, now he's like now between my legs looking up at me. And you are the cutest. Yes, you are. You're the cutest. Yes. I've also been having fun because I got to dog sit for Aaron Dries when he had to go out of town, and then I
Yeah.
got to cat sit for my friend Kat, and so I get everybody else's pals become my pals while I travel.
That
So
is awesome. Not a bad gig.
yeah, I love it. And I remember I went to one place, and my friend said, "Now we have two cats." And they're very shy, but they will get used to you and they will love you over time. I said, "Oh, okay." And they were kind of like looking from around the corner of the hallway, and I was like, "Hey, come here!" And they're like, "Okay." They just came right up. They're like, "Hi," and they're like, "She's like, they don't do that." I'm like, "Yeah, kitties like me. They know when I need some extra love.
That's
You
great.
know,
That's awesome.
you know when I'm pet deprived."
If you're ever out around this neck of the woods or you thought, "You know what? Leaving Atlanta to go back to Australia, just wouldn't seem right unless I went over to Canada first. We got a spot for you. I've got two cats and a kid. Um, they're both pretty awesome most of the time. So,
One of the things when I had my car accident, one of the things that I was going to do uh, that got sidewiped, sideswiped was I was supposed to go up to the Merrimack Valley Book Festival in Massachusetts, and then I was going to go up and I was going to do my road trip through the rest of Canada. So I was going to go and visit friends in Toronto and kind of make my little trip back there, and then maybe hit back to Wyoming again. And
yeah,
that didn't work out.
nah,
But
that's
instead I got pet kangaroos, and
that's
and
not a bad trade-off. I've been to Toronto before. Pet more kangaroos.
but
Yeah,
it's been a wonderful time for sure.
yeah, good. So, Lynn, I really cannot thank you enough for this conversation. This has been just fascinating listening to the story and the fact that you've never really spoken openly about a lot of this stuff, and you're comfortable coming on here and you're cool with doing all this, being open, leaving yourself vulnerable, and I really it means a lot to me. I had no, when you first mentioned that on Facebook that this is the first time, I'm just, my mind was pretty blown about that, and it's funny because I hesitated approaching you about that too, and I kept going back and forth because I mean again we did we obviously know each other. We've met face to face thanks to AuthorCon and stuff, and and thanks to technology we chatted on here before. But it was all about your artwork and your covers and everything else too, which was fascinating. So I knew that it would be enjoyable conversation, and but at the same time I didn't know where things would go. I didn't know where your mindset was, and I kept thinking, "No, I don't want to do that because I'm just going to be I feel like I'll be intruding on things, and that's rude of me. And why would I want you just to come on here and pour your heart out about things?" And then when you said, "Well, I'm leaving Australia here," I'm like, "Now or never." Okay, the worst she's going to do is say no and be angry at me and not invite
D-
me to dinner again
That
or something. So I'm like, let's go for it.
that would never be a thing for me. And I'm so glad for this opportunity because it's also very good for me to kind of get it, have an opportunity to talk about things with some perspective and to share so much of the joy that I've had over the last year and a half as a result of this just big shift in my life. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for the people I've met, and yeah, I love my life. you know.
Well, I wish I've got a mostly empty cup from water, but I will say cheers to life.
There we go. Cheers. Cheers
All
to
right,
life.
clink.
Yeah.
No, that's
And
awesome. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
in kind of wrapping things up on this chat, oh my God,
We don't even want to think about how long this is.
2.5 hours apparently, and it doesn't seem like it's enough time, and it seemed like no time at all. Seriously, usually my there's a reason that most of my conversations I've had on here have been about an hour or so, because I don't know how the other podcasters that do it. I mean, I guess probably because they get paid to do it, but I don't know how they get you know they do these like 3 hour long podcasts, 4 hours long. So I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? By about like the hour mark, my brain starts to turn inside out, and like I'm not even the same person anymore. So I don't know how they do it beyond that. But this didn't seem like it at all. So that's a testament to
Oh, thank
I knew I would enjoy the conversation, but no, this has been great.
Well, it was just wonderful, and to have that opportunity and to get to kind of get over that first hump of sharing things publicly, because
Sure.
the more I go along, the more I'm going to have to do that. And
Yeah.
so I want, it removes a lot of the anxiety associated with it because, I survived.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, now you can just send them a link. You can have a
There we
QR code
go.
and just say, just scan this. Everything you need to know is there. Go away.
There's a bunch of stories I didn't get to tell though, not to
I
tease you or anything.
of course not. Well, you're gonna have to put him in your book, or we're gonna have to do
That's
this again.
it. That's it. Well,
Yeah,
this is absolutely delightful. Thank you so much for having me.
my pleasure. Now, is there anything you want to leave people, or any kind of, parting thoughts about anything, or maybe even something that you, when you were having this, decide to have a conversation about this, that you thought, this is what I want people to get from this. This is what I want to get from this, because after all, as much as it's amazing that you're sharing this with other people, this is your life and your story. So, what were you? Table is
I think
yours.
I think there are two things that I think are really important. You can do almost anything if you are your genuine self with people. And the people who don't like you for being your genuine self shouldn't be in your life to begin with. So it's if you are who you truly are, it is easy for people to trust you and believe in you, and to build friendships together and to do things together. So be yourself always. And if other people don't like it, that's those are people that shouldn't be around you anyhow because you're not a good match. So I think that's I think that's really really important. And the other part is it's only scary the first couple of times. Whatever you do, people say it's only scary the first time. No, it's not true. It's scary the first few times, but then eventually you figure out how to like get through it easier. So it's only scary the first few times, and then you can handle it. And then you go on to the next scary thing. So and and trust your friends. You have more friends than you think you do. And mine are absolutely amazing. So,
Excellent. Well, thank you for being an amazing friend as well, Lynn.
thank you so much for having me. This is just wonderful. And if I wanted to tell anybody about anything about my stuff, please sign up for my newsletter off of my website because that's the best way to constantly keep in touch. I do a creepy calendar every month for subscribers,
Yeah.
and it lets people and people actually write me back on my newsletter, which is wonderful. Like who writes people back on newsletters? It's great.
Well, obviously people do for you, because and I think people are gonna be really surprised as well that you've got some of the best newsletters out there, and just the style you write them in.
Oh,
It really feels like, I mean, I read your newsletters in your voice. I mean, not out loud because that would be a little bit creepy, but in my head, I hear your voice, and yeah, no, it's awesome. Like, you just have a really natural way of presenting yourself that way through the newsletter, and I think it's fantastic. I mean, I really should get more consistent in my newsletters. I wrote one this morning or this afternoon. I try to be natural and authentic, but I don't have your natural flair for that. So yeah,
oh,
it's a cool
it
experience reading your newsletters.
oh, thank you. It was not something that came naturally because I was an author before I was an artist. And
Yeah,
it took me, I don't know, 50 years, 52 years to figure out what my voice actually was. And if I had been writing books using the voice that I write my newsletters in, I would have been a much more successful writer. But I don't know how it came about. It just did. And now I know that's me. And it took a long time trying. And I tried, man. But this is just feels like me. And it's nice because like I said,
yeah,
people write me back and we keep in touch and doesn't matter what social media platform blows up next, we'll still keep in touch. And
perfect.
so I love it. And I started it during the pandemic because I did see people starting to leave socials and stuff. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, no, that's
but
great.
yeah,
And I'll put a link to your newsletter down below as well, so
lovely.
that way people don't have to, get lost in the jungle that is, you know, you or Google. Sorry, maybe my brain is starting to turn inside out now. I guess apparently I make exceptions at the 3.5 hour mark, or 2.5, whatever we're at. It doesn't matter
Well,
anymore. Time
we
is
did
what
kind of
is.
we did kind of talk for an hour before we even started the podcast. So
That's right. See, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, so my mind is right then. See, it is on track. It just calculates the whole thing constantly. Um, what is time? But no, I will put a newsletter down below, the link to your newsletter down below as well. And for everybody watching this as well, I suck at doing these things because I just get so caught up in the conversations. I usually forget. But this, your voice deserves as much echo and you know, not resignation, resonating. See, my brain, resonation as possible, whatever the definition of going on means. So if you guys can also do a favor too, and click like on the video, it's free. It takes a second to do that. And it really does help out too, because as people that maybe don't understand the algorithms of YouTube, when you do hit like, it's going to find people just like you guys that are all watching this, and it'll put this video in front of those people. Um, which I think is super important to get Lynn's voice out there as much as possible and really have that positive impact on as many people as possible. So yeah, by all means do that, share it. I'm gonna put some other, as I mentioned before to you, Lynn, before the other hour that we had, where I do take some of my little bits from the conversations out there as well, and put them in separately. So I think people that would like this or maybe want to come back and check it out, uh, I'll put those out too, so people want to just kind of have those in the background if they need the odd little reminder about how to enjoy and live the best life possible. They can go back and hear your words as well in that manner also.
Oh,
So
thank you so much. This has just been a delight, absolute delight.
yes, thank you, Lynn. Well, you enjoy the rest of your, I guess, afternoon, because you're still in the
Oh,
afternoon out there.
right. It's my last day in Australia. So, but I'm very very excited, and I'm actually looking forward to getting back to the States and seeing
Yeah.
my friends and getting my knee fixed. I don't think the world is ready for me with two functional knees.
You're gonna be running up them hills. That's awesome. And of course, it's not the last. I mean, it's the last day for now in Australia, but of course, you're going to be back.
That's what all my friends say. They also
Yes,
remind me when I say it's my last day in Australia, they're like, "For now, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, for
for
now."
now. Yeah,
But,
for now.
guys, oh, wonderful. Thank you again so very much. It's
You
wonderful.
betcha. Thank you, Len. Thanks for everybody watching this. Safe travels to everybody wherever the world leads you. Thank you, Len. We will chat again.
Bye.